It's a 2-hour session here at the Circuit de la Sarthe. We've had a good day, not as hot a day as it was 12 months ago, but a very good day with regards to the weather. There's been some terrible weather over the last couple of days here, but fortunately it is now dry. This is the remainder of a support race practice and qualifying that's just going around the racetrack, around this 13.6 kilometer racetrack. Last year we had one of the epic fightbacks of recent times. The Porsche number 2, the 919, was back in 56th position, and with about an hour and a bit to go, then retook the lead in LMP1 to win overall. In LMP2, they were second overall. In GTE Pro, it was the Aston Martin that took the victory, and in GTE AM, it was the Ferrari that took the victory there. 18 degrees ambient temperature, a little bit of a breeze. You sort of now need to put a jumper on at this time of night. We're coming up to 10 o'clock here local time in the Circuit de la Sarthe in Le Mans as Toyota prepare for what could be yet another pole position, just as they did 12 months ago. A 3 minutes 14.7 they did 12 months ago. But the LMP2 guys are going to be thinking about what they can do to knock on the door. Likewise, the GTE Pro guys. There's Andy Priaulx, three-time world touring car champion, one-time a European touring car champion, and a Race of Champions winner as well. There you have the brand new Aston Martin Vantage, and the car that has just been rebuilt after the big off that it had just 10 days ago during the test session on here at Le Mans, when Marco Sorensen had an off down to Indianapolis, took all 4 wheels off the car, bent the chassis. It was scrapped. Paul Howarth, team principal, just on the left-hand side, overseeing the effort there with 3 cars in that garage, 2 in the GTE Pro category, the brand new lime green cars, and 1 in the GTE AM class. That is the number 98 car of Dalla Lana, Lamy and Matthias Lauda. Toby Moody up here in the commentary position, overlooking the final chicane. There you see it on your screen. Julian Porter and Peter Dumbreck alongside me for the first hour of this 2-hour qualifying session. Julian, the weather's good. It's not as warm, as I said, as it was last year, but let's kick off and let's see some quick lap times right from the word go.
Well, that's it. And if anything that this morning was anything to go by, or this afternoon we're walking around the pit lane and the paddock, teams will want to get out rapidly, because bad weather's forecast for tomorrow, and they'll want to get some times in while it's just a little bit of light. And I mean, Peter will be able to tell us what the perfect conditions is, but that car we just saw there, the 95 Aston Martin, being worked on, 16th out of 17 fastest in GTE Pro, so not a great run. I mean, the other Aston was only 15th, so there's some improving needing to be done there. And just getting a look here at the Rebellion. I mean, Rebellion were 3rd quickest through there, in a 3rd and 6th quickest. So it will be interesting to see.
But that car there, more importantly, was sort of best of the non-Toyotas. So it was the best of the LMP1 cars that has not got hybrid extra power, that extra 400 horsepower underneath the guy's right foot.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how this works out, because you've got obviously the works cars, the Toyotas, and all the other teams are privateers essentially, without a hybrid engine. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. We know that the Toyota is capable of doing that 3 minute 14 that it did last year. Will we see a 3:13 this year? It'll be interesting. Maybe not today, but yeah, I think it's going to be interesting all the same. And there's fights all the way down. We've got a load of P2 cars as well, which are all going to be very close. And there's a massive fight in the GT cars as well, especially with the pros. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting session.
Peter, we just touched on the weather then, and ambient temperature and everything like that. A little bit of track temperature maybe in the track from that sun. Are we going to see a busy track to start with?
I would think that most people want to get out there and get started, and Jeroen Bleekemolen in there, he's getting ready, about 10 minutes to go. So yeah, I think most of them will want to get out there. There are sure to be a queue as the lights turn green in the pit lane. So definitely, of course, there's going to be traffic. Quite often in this first run, though, you'll get the Toyota or one of the fast P1 cars that want to get past all those traffic on the outlap and get at least half a lap or so of clear track for their attack lap on lap 1 before they start catching the tail end of that traffic in the GT cars. So hopefully then they get the clear lap.
Okay, well, that was the voice of Peter Dumbreck. As you see, Alexander Sims coming into the back of the BMW M-Tech garage with their new 8 Series, but down there...
In the pit lane, we are under 10 minutes. We are slightly under 10 minutes to start the first qualifying session, which is also a night session. We are starting on time. Please turn on your RCNS so that we can communicate with you. Track is clean, track is dry. Session will start on time as foreseen in the timetable. I will come back to the frequency before the session starts.
So that was race director Eduardo Freitas just giving people heads up before the session. The 4th person in our broadcast this evening is Louise Beckett, and she's down there in the pits. What's the atmosphere like down there, Louise?
I certainly am. Everyone's anticipating, getting ready, getting in the cars. Juan Pablo Montoya has just got in the number 32 United Autosports car, and I'm right by the Racing Team Netherlands as well, 29. I can't see who's in there at the moment.
It'll be a Dutchman, I'll tell you that. It'll be a Dutchman. It'll either be Fritz van Aert,
Guido's in there. Sorry,
Guido's
in there. So I'm right at the end of the pit lane, so I'm going to start making my way back down now and come back to you shortly.
Okay then, excellent. That's Louise Beckett down there in the pits. There is a view into the number 92 Porsche GT garage. No, it's not made of bricks and breeze blocks, and it hasn't got wooden tool chests, but it's all a wrap, and it makes it look very retro. And that is the Pink Pig, like the Porsche 917 that ran here in 1971, some 47 years ago. 3 AF Corsa Ferraris racing in the GTE Pro category, 2 of them with that livery, similar to the number 71 there, the sort of, can I say lipstick, kind of darker red, and one of them behind it, that's the number 72, which is a much more brighter, vibrant cherry kind of red, with Tony Villander, Antonio Giovinazzi and Pipo Derani at the wheel of that car. So yeah, Ferrari mean business. Likewise, the American run Porsche GT class with Timo Bernhard at the helm of that car, together with Romain Dumas and Sven Muller. Muller just on the right-hand side there. Timo Bernhard, winner of this race outright 12 months ago, together with winning the World Endurance Championship to boot.
Yeah, he wasn't in his race suit, so he's obviously not planning on going out straight away, so leaving that to everybody else. And yeah, there's a few teams who do need a bit of a hurry up, isn't there? The BMW, you talked about them, they struggled a bit as well in that category, but it'd be interesting. There you go, Peter, they're all making their way out. The 4 oh,
That was very close to contact straight away.
Competition started already 6 minutes before the start of the session, and already we're getting competitive replays because people want to get to the front of the queue, Peter.
I did think there was going to be a queue forming there quite soon. As I said, you potentially can at least get half a clear lap, no traffic, and that means quite a lot. Even though it's the first lap and you're maybe not quite up to speed yourself, it's still a big gain.
Looking for information, track temperature is 23 degrees at the moment, 23 compared to 30 what we finished in the free practice one.
Okay, so all about track temperature for Kazuki Nakajima and what's going on down there. Now, I went into the Ginetta garage after the last session, which was a couple of hours ago, and they had an electrical kind of software programming problem at the beginning of the last session, which was 4 hours in length, and then they said we might have a problem with our Mechachrome engine, which is a 2.4, which is a V6 turbocharged engine, and you can see they're still working on that car now. And that does not look good for that one down there. Not good at all. In the GTE AM category, Mock Griffin and Sarah, where are we? Yeah, Sawa. You can't miss that car, that's for sure, down there. So will the Ginetta be able to get rolling again? Have they got an engine problem? That is the big question for the blue, the metallic chrome-coloured blue cars, the brand new Ginettas that are joining this LMP1 category to make it now 10 cars in LMP1. No Porsche, no Audi, just the 2 Toyotas that are here. So there are 8 LMP1 privateer cars, as Peter was saying a moment ago, to make this field get bigger and bigger. And news coming tomorrow, sorry, on Friday, apologies, Friday, about what the future will hold for endurance racing and the Le Mans 24 Hours in 2020 and 2024 and beyond. They are making plans for what might be on the horizon, and they're going to be very interesting to hear what the organisers, the ACO, the Automobile Club de l'Ouest, have got to say about the future of endurance racing.
Well, let's just hope it's, well, obviously it's always going to be positive in there, but let's hope it's as exciting as it has been. I think the big fight this weekend, when you look at it, LMP2, you can see a whole line of them there, GTE Pro, GTM, it is a real racing battle. Here was one of the quick cars this morning. Not this morning. Earlier, yes. Earlier, I think they just got pipped, didn't they, by their teammate? Yeah, they did just get pipped by their teammate in the end. But Porsche, in any GT category, very, very quick. They were 1, 2, 3 in the Pro and 1, 2 in the AM category. So going very, very well, the Porsches. And now, you see, we've got a 97 Aston out here, the 98. There's still work going on that 95 car in the top right of your screen. There just seems to be quite a few cars which have got bits on.
Okay, well, Julian has noticed that Aston Martin has got a lot of work going on with it. Louise, what kind of work is going on in other garages?
There's a lot of activity across the board. I'm not even halfway, well, I'm about halfway down the pit lane. The BMWs are still being worked on, the 93 Porsche, the 3738 Jackie Chan DC Racing. There's a lot of cars still being tampered with.
Thank you, Louise. Louise Beckett down in the pits. Peter Dumbreck, you know, you're used to a busy pit lane at the Nürburgring 24 Hours and the VLN races. These cars are getting bigger. The spaces are still the same size, so it's getting tighter on the actual pit lane apron, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and we're of course getting more cars out there, gradually creeping up in numbers of cars. Yeah, you know, when the fun and games begins when the pit stops begin during the race, and you say you've got 3 cars coming in together, all line astern, and they all want to get to their box. So that's why they have those wheelie jacks. They just whack them under the car, pop the car up, and they're able to position the car from there. But it does cost seconds, and seconds that sometimes they don't have.
Just when we saw, was it Kevin Estre getting in the pink Porsche? You know, you saw the stance of the Porsche sitting there on the pit lane entry. You've driven Porsche in endurance races as well, and you know, that looks a fast car because it is a fast car. You know, the engineering. What's your experience of sitting behind the wheel of a Porsche GT racing car?
Yeah, I mean, I think a Porsche is always going to be special. It's such a big heritage, long heritage to it. You know, Ford the same. You know, they were here a long time ago, away for a long time now. They're back again. Every car's got its own sort of heritage to it, and yeah, a Porsche is a favourite car. You know, it's personally, if I'm going to buy a nice road car, then it's quite likely to be a Porsche.
Okay, we're underway. 2 hours of qualifying.
It's like the M25. Look at them queuing to get out.
It's like Piccadilly Circus, but it's going to be a very quick M25 in a few moments' time.
Interestingly, the Toyotas are that bit further back, and then you've got this car, the 28 car. Either it's got an issue, or it's holding back to let the cars. Yeah, it's got an issue.
Yeah. But the Toyotas, they will soon rapidly get past everything else. So
I think
it's
that's
maybe not a bad
possibly their
thing.
plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think they planned for that though.
No.
So now the guys in front are gone.
Yeah, the TDS car was certainly taking its time, one could say, with Perodo at the wheel. So hopefully that car hasn't got a problem. And as we saw in many forms of motorsport, if a car has a problem on the first lap, that's finger trouble rather than a failure, if you follow my drift.
So Conway and Buemi in these two Toyotas. Be interesting to see, because remember Kobayashi has the outright lap record.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see if they try and rapidly do something now, but let's see.
Already building speed, 190 miles an hour, coming up to 321. Will it beat 321? Yeah, there you go. That's 200 miles an hour. 321 kilometers an hour, so just a little bit over 200, even on the first run down to the first chicane on an outlap. You've got to get into the groove, you've got to get in there quickly, and as we saw last year, I know we keep going on about it, but it was an absolute track record, 3:14.7. Earlier today we saw a 3:18.7, 4 seconds difference, but now the pole position is up for grabs. There is another session tomorrow, another 2 sessions tomorrow, should I say, so there's 6 hours of qualifying. This is the first 2, but 4 hours of qualifying, 2 other sessions tomorrow, one of them's free practice. So
yeah, 6 in
I was
total.
right
Sorry,
first time.
yeah, sorry.
I was right first time. Stop waving at me, Porter. In the meantime, as these guys are on their outlap, we've got Louise down there at the Ginetta garage with Ollie Rowland, who's in the all-British car with Alex Brundle and Oliver Turvey. Louise?
Yes, I am with Ollie, and we can see the number 5 is looking like it's almost on its way out. Number 6 has still got a lot of work to do. What's going on? What are they looking at?
Yeah, so we had to change the engine after free. Obviously, the guys are doing a pretty good job. I think they're nearly done, so we should be out pretty soon. Yeah, not ideal. No laps in free practice and straight out in the night. First time for me, so but yeah, we'll see. We'll do our best.
Well, they have done very good then to turn it around that quickly.
Yeah, really good. I mean, 2 hours ago I thought there was no chance, but they've done an extremely good job, and yeah, big credit to them.
Was that both the cars?
No, just our car, just the number 6. The 5 had some problems at the start of the session, more electrical, but they fixed them, and I'm not sure why they're a little bit late out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's Oliver Rowland, first time here at Le Mans. He's sharing with Alex Brundle and Oliver Turvey. Now we are on board with the number 1 Rebellion. This at the helm is Bruno Senna. Senna, the reigning LMP2 champion from 2017, wrapped up the title in Bahrain in the middle of November last year. And together with Julian Canal, and an emotional day that was for the pair of them. Jan Lammers, here he is, 62 years old off the top of my head. Won this race first 30 years ago. That was the first Silk Cut Jaguar victory, not the first Jaguar victory, let us not forget. They won it with the XKs, then the C-Type, then the D-Types, and then the Silk Cut Jaguars, returning together with the half of the population of the UK in the grandstand opposite the pits back then. That is the car that Jan Lammers will be driving. At the moment, it's Guido van der Garde at the helm. Yes, it is. The all-Dutch crew with Team Jumbo. Dutch supermarket. Classic Le Mans shot.
69 Ford sat obviously in your picture there, and driver on board, no tyres at the minute. What kind of, apart from black and round ones, Peter, what compound are we looking at potentially at the minute?
Oh, so yeah, good one. Medium? Yeah, let's say a medium. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's cold enough to be on a soft, so probably a medium. But yeah, it all depends on how Michelin how they space their tyres. You know, there's always a lap, an overlap between a soft tyre and a medium, where you can use either tyre at the same temperature, and then as it gets, say, a bit hotter, then you move fully to medium, and vice versa onto hard. So I would probably guess medium at the moment.
Saw a shot of Romain Dumas and then Jan Lammers again in the pits.
So the first car's just coming around to complete their laps. It's an out lap, let us not forget. Now they start their first flying lap. So people getting some quick times in, some quick speeds in. As you see the Corvette coming out of that final corner and growling its way up over the start-finish line. Is it Toyota's race to lose? Many say. Is it theirs for the taking? Many say as well.
I think the pressure is on them. The pressure is not
Exactly.
on anyone else.
Exactly. Everybody is looking, and then you know, maybe even as a mechanic, and even you're doing the smallest of jobs, it's still so vital and important, and you must double check, triple check. Have I done it right? Have I even put the dust cap on the tyre valve correctly? You know, you've got to be absolutely sure that everything is right, because we all know what happened 2 years ago.
Well, it seems like it happened every year.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, there is that as
Something's
well.
happened every year to them. Yeah.
I've been here 3 years, 14, 16, 17, and something's happened each year. And they've been in the lead each time it's happened. The number 10 Dragon Speed P1 car, just gone quickest at the minute. Hanley on board that at the moment, but here come the Toyotas, so I'm not sure. Dragon Speed, if you want to see your name at the top of the time sheets, you need to screen grab it right now, because in about 15 seconds it's going to be missing, I suspect. Sarrazin already gone quicker, Nakajima gone quicker again.
Okay, that's the quickest lap we've seen so far here this year. 317.2, quicker than the session we had earlier. 317.2, 317.3 for the sister car. So the two Toyotas split by 1/10 of a second after 3 1/3 minutes of running around Le Mans.
Immediately, though, the Toyota backs off.
Now, the best of the rest is, at the moment, Sarrazin in the number 3 Sarrazin in the number 17. That's one of the SMP Racing BR Engineering Delaras. He knows how to qualify. He knows how to hang it out when the sun has just dipped below the horizon. Remember what he did in a Peugeot here back in the late zeros. Now look at this. Look at the sense of speed and acceleration as he goes on to Les Uno d'Hier, down towards the first chicane. A car way, way in front of him. Clean lap here. He'll get through the chicane without any other people in front of him.
Yeah, I think we saw that car back off.
Yeah, this car backed off at the start, didn't it?
So he's lost his first sector. It might be that he's trying to find some space, or it might be that he's just going straight into the pits and happy enough with that first lap.
Meanwhile, in GTE Pro, it is, at the moment, the two Porsches, number 91, 92, that's the Rothmans car and the Pink Pig, as it were, in first and second position. Big spin for somebody.
Well, I can't see a car. I mean, the Ferrari drove through that, didn't they? But
was it the Ford driving away?
I don't know.
Or was it somebody else behind the smoke screen?
I'm just keeping a check on the screen to see if it comes up with a car number. Here we go.
Oh, world's biggest lock.
Oh,
whoa!
that's
the Rothmans car going backwards, straight in. Here we go.
And its teammate locked up in front of it as well.
Lost it, the rear end. Is it going to hit the wall? Just get away with it.
That's a big off.
It is a
quick off.
He lost it on the brakes. We've seen a few cars actually there, and other places just lose it on the brakes, rear end, come round on them. As I talked about earlier on, the track is just not fully there yet.
Properly beached though, isn't it?
Gauging by the times of the fastest cars, you know, they're a good 3.5 seconds off pole from last year, so.
Jimmy Bruni in his first Le Mans for, well, non-Ferrari. is in the gravel, so that's going to be quite something for him to get out of there. Meanwhile, we ride on board with Kazuki Nakajima as he's coming out of the Porsche curves down towards the Ford chicane and coming into the pits. So Jimmy Bruni will be pulled out of that gravel. Let's have another look at that again. Comes in from stage right, and it's just as well there wasn't another car turning in front of him, because that would... And here we go at real speed. Here we go at real speed. Here we go, trying to straight line the corner over the curve, and has a wobble on the way out of that quick right.
I think he took a little bit too much of the curve. That was it. He took too much of the apex curve. Once he was committed, he was already on the brakes and starting to go down the gears, and yeah, rear end came around. Yeah, track's just a bit green, not quite up to speed yet, and I think he got away with that one though. He could have been a lot worse.
Well, it just set the fastest time in GTE Pro with a 3:47.5, and maybe he'd seen that lap time come up on his screen and thought, oh, I'll have some of that. I'll do a 3:46. I'll do a 3:40. Oh, you're off.
Yeah.
Which is unlike him, because you know he knows how to string a lap together. But now we've got a slow zone, so quite a bit of the track. We have got...
Oops, it's just been lifted up now at the minute, so they're trying to protect that rear diffuser, aren't they, while they've got it in the air?
I think they'll just rotate that and send it on its way, and he'll probably be able to drive back.
Engine cover off the 10 Dragon speed, Hanley on board. Remember, that was quick until everyone else started completing laps. Cover going back on.
That, of course, a brand new car after the accident that befell the other chassis at Spa, with Pietro Fittipaldi being injured.
Everyone seems to have just come in because of that slow zone. They can't do anything, can they? So taking advantage of it. Dempsey Proton Racing 1-2 in the GTE AM category, and it's a Porsche 1-2 in the Pro, one of them being in the thing. Peter, what's going on there with that steering wheel? Look at all that.
Yeah, good. You know, there's a lot of information there, and things have moved on since I drove a car quite as advanced as that, let's say. So, yeah, you've got a lot of information, and especially the hybrid side of things, which I've never even driven a hybrid car, race car anyway. So yeah, they've got a lot to think about, and to be honest, I have no idea. Well, Alan's your man for that. He would know a bit more.
Alan's your man, yeah. I think he joins us for the second hour of the session. So, see, Sam Bird.
A new evolution for the 488 GTE Ferrari. It's just got a few extra aerodynamic tweaks to it. JPM is in the United Autosports car. And they're making a shocker change, are they? Just putting the right... that's Jimmy Bruni. He's on the radio. He's now got to get the thing started, and he does. There's an extra sort of road of tarmac. Is it stalling? Oh, no, the world's worst. It runs, and then it stops. It runs, and then it stops. And you are 13 kilometers of a 13.6 kilometer racetrack away from home.
It sounded like gravel in the brakes, though.
Yeah, there would be a lot of gravel in there, for sure. But it would normally still run. You'd normally still, get things turning and release it.
Yeah, but the speed he went through the gravel, it'll be will it be in parts of the engine where gravel should not be? Has it popped a belt or something? It started, it went a yard, a meter, and then it stopped.
But I think it was a noise, wasn't it? I think he stopped it because of the noise. It was like a screeching, grinding noise.
Oh, we're trying to listen in. We're trying to listen in as Montoya's suspension gets changed on the back of the United Autosports car, but that's big news if that Porsche is out of this qualifying session, or it's going to lose an enormous amount of time in this qualifying session. It's quickest with its one and only flying lap. It then went off at the first corner of its second flying lap, and it now won't run.
It's going behind the wall as well. You think maybe when you say a belt, has it like an engine timing belt, whatever?
Or something, a power steering belt, an engine hydraulic actuation, something that it now won't. Maybe it's in a limp mode rather than the gearbox is happy and it's happy to change gears. You know, there's no mechanical linkage between the driver and the gearbox in any of these cars that we have. All 60 cars that we've got here racing this weekend, there is no mechanical power steering. Who knows what? But it went in at 150 miles an hour across that gravel. 130. Gravel's going to get to places where not even Porsche GT endurance engineers would ever think would get to places.
So the Toyotas have taken that slow zone and they've swapped drivers already. Kobayashi in this car, the 7 car, and we just saw Buemi, I think it was, wasn't it? Buemi was already sat in the other car, yeah, instead of Nakajima.
Over the crest, flat, changing up gears. Down through the Forest S's. This is the car that is second on the grid at the moment. We've only had 16 minutes of 2 hours of qualifying. The speed through Tete Rouge as the sister car gets wheeled out. This is the car currently on pole position. Great aerial view, gives you some idea of the aerodynamics, the sleek design of these cars. As it's about to get the go-ahead before it goes on its way. Will Toyota win Le Mans? The big question.
The amount of journalists and photographers around that car, the huge expectation is there, and as you say, is it theirs to lose?
Yeah,
is it?
and when you bring someone like Alonso into the mix as well, with all the PR he's going to bring with him, it's suddenly a lot of pressure there.
Only one Spaniard has won Le Mans.
Genet?
Marc Genet in a Peugeot.
Yes, I got one right.
I didn't know the answer off the top. Potentially, I might have got it after about half an hour.
So the number 8 Toyota is quickest overall. The number 28, the TDS Racing car, is leading the LMP2 class. The Porsche that has unfortunately now gone off is leading the GTE Pro category, and GTE Am is the Dempsey Proton Porsche of Matteo Cairoli, the Porsche Junior driver, in the number 88 car. That's the matte black with a bit of silver and a bit of light blue flashes down the side of it. Matt Campbell, Christian Reed, sorry, wrong number. What am I talking about? 88, it's without the blue. Matteo Cairoli, Al-Kabasi, and Giorgio Roda.
So as I thought with those first laps, no one's really going any quicker now. It's obviously getting a little bit darker and traffic is an issue. So all these P1 cars, P2 cars that got out early were able to do their lap, and then it's going to be that much harder to do it now. Interesting red lights on the Piggy car.
Yeah, why the red lights? I think the other one does have blue lights as well. So
is it an ID thing when they come down pit lane?
Maybe.
I wonder.
Yeah, that's.
I wonder, because you can't have red lights in the front of a car on a racetrack.
No. Yeah, it could be with pit lane limiter on. Yeah.
Second in class at the moment, as per the 2 lights.
93 car coming out behind it. I don't think the 93 car, looking on this timing board that I'm looking at,
keeping the tires on.
Hasn't set a time yet.
Keeping the tires on. They just did the tire pressures quickly. Now they put the dust caps back on. Wheel it back into the garage.
So 93 coming back into the bits. That's the one that Louise was saying was being worked on. So that gives us that bit of information.
So looking at the GT battle, Porsche are still reigning. When you think earlier on today in the test session, the practice session, Porsche were quickest. The quickest again straight away. And down near the back, you've got the BMWs and the Aston Martin again. So definitely, I would think that overnight they're going to be campaigning for BOP changes.
I think that started a few hours ago.
Very busy in the pit lane as well. Look at them all. They've all on top of each other here. No.
They're all in herringbone, aren't they? Because they just can't squeeze in. Of course, you know, there's no lock on these cars relative to a road car. You know, they're almost pathetic to try and do an 8-point turn. That's why they put the dollies underneath.
That's it, yeah. The best thing is when you've got a two-car, at least a two-car team, you've got those two spaces and you try not to pit your two cars at the same time. Or if you do, you can get them sorted out and much easier because you can communicate.
Mathieu Vaxivier, he had that big off. He had that touch, sorry, with the Ferrari in the GT class last year, pushing the Ferrari into the barrier. He was mortified that he'd made such a mistake to cost another entry its chance at even getting to the finish of the Le Mans 24 Hours, but he's quick, and he's quickest at the moment in LMP2 with the TDS racing car. He's quickest by 1.1 seconds. A 3:25.2 he is, and a 3:25 essentially, a 3:26.3 essentially for the IDEX Sport car that is second in class at the moment. Patrick Dempsey in the house. Haven't seen him so far this weekend, but have now. Part of the Dempsey Proton Racing squad. We get all the girls all a quiver.
28 tyres available for P1s, P2s, and 32 tyres available for the GT category cars over the sessions up until the race. There's quite a lot of discussions going on. We saw a bit of shoulder shrugging from the Ferrari driver who got out.
And head shaking. I was thinking the same.
Hand shaking, right?
No, head shaking.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that was a 71 car. So it almost looked like, huh? A 347? No way. How can you do a 347 when they're 3 seconds slower?
Yeah.
He's probably thinking that wasn't a bad lap, and I'm 3 seconds slower. So, yeah, I have a feeling that there's a lot of that going on down the pit lane.
Or, let's give some credit to Jimmy Bruni. He just risked it and hung it out whilst he had daylight, maybe the clear track for him. We didn't ride on board with him, obviously, and just took a risk.
Yeah, true.
Just got his brain up to speed quicker than the rest.
For one lap. Until the brain ran out of power.
Exactly. Well, you know, as I said with, I was talking with Andy Prio this morning, you know, I call it a hill climb run. You don't have chance for a warm-up. You've just got to go bang straight out.
Well, it's certainly an impressive lap, and at the moment, anyway, he's second and a half clear of second place. But that car has got is going to do no more miles in this session anyway. Well, it's stuck behind the wall, so you never know. But
it'll take a while to get back to the pits. As we ride on board with the Jackie Chan racing car, the number 38. This is Ho Pin Tung, Stefan Rakelmi, and Gabriel Aubry. The Chinese, the Monegasque, and the Frenchman.
Ho Pin Tung aboard it at the minute.
Oh, hello. There's going to be contact here. What is the Corvette doing?
Well, hang on. What's the 33 car doing? He's going very slow in the middle of the road.
I get the feeling he was trying to make a point.
Ah, right.
I think that was a, what do you think you're doing, driving slowly on the racing line? And yeah, that was quite close to contact.
On board with the 67, Prio Tinknell Kanaan. Over the line, 3:53.3.
Currently fourth quickest with Andy Prio aboard that car.
That camera just makes it look so much lighter than it really is. You know, you always get it when, for those of you watching who of watch cricket, you always hear the commentators say it's much darker here than it looks on television, and that's certainly the case.
I love the way the Fords light up that rear end and the side of their car to like with the different colours of they're carrying. So it's like an electric blue neon lights down it. So it looks really, really cool. Need to get try and get a photograph of that somehow, because oh, here's the 6 car. Here's the 6 car in the pits.
Well, they're still working on that car.
Both cars,
yeah, that car had the electrical problem. And that car had the engine problem as well, on the other side of the garage. So yeah, bit of a wiggle there for one of the AM cars, but all sorted now.
Fisichella at the wheel.
He's hustling that along, isn't he?
He certainly is, and we know he's capable of some real fast lap times. Currently 4th in the AM class. Again, the Porsche just seems to have the legs on everyone else at the moment.
Remember that the RSR in the GTE AM class is the new car for the AM class now that it is a year old. Andre Lotterer plugging his radio in to the #1 Rebellion. Door shut. And if anybody can do a quick lap, and anybody can hang it out, and anybody can risk it, but keep it together, my money is on Andre Lotterer. He is quick over 1 lap.
I think that we talked about it in free practice. Rebellion have got a strong lineup, haven't they? They really have, and any one of them can hang it out there.
Yeah, I think that possibly the unknown at the moment is how quick their car is.
Back from the Porsche curves, the G-Drive car, number 26, the orange one, Jean-Eric Vergne at the wheel there. 3:24.9, not going to do that. As he crosses the line now. 3:29.5, bit of traffic for him there. Still leading is the IDEX Sport car from TDS, from G-Drive, actually 1, 2, 3 at the moment in LMP2. Still quickest at the top of the pile are the 2 Toyotas. 3:17s they have done. Sebastian Buemi, Mike Conway at the wheel of the 2 Toyotas at present. They're 2.2 seconds quicker than the LMP1s without hybrid power. It's the SMP car, number 17, that is next up. That's Sarazan Orodzev and Ishikan. Ishikan, who had the flip over at the top of the hill at Spa, top of Eau Rouge. Terrifying flip, but he got away with it. The youngster was lucky there in the BR racing car, but it landed on its wheels, and he is okay. But they're best of the rest at the moment from Andre Lotterer's Rebellion, from Thomas Laurent's Rebellion. 3rd of best of the rest. We're riding on board with the number 94 Porsche. That's got Sven Muller at the wheel at the moment as he's coming into the Porsche curves.
There was a big flash, wasn't there? Get out of the way, I'm coming through.
Listen to this.
Oh, he's on it through there. Fair play to him. Sven Muller very nearly took pole position at Nürburgring 24 hours this year. Just pipped by Laurent Vantours. But again, Porsche 1-2 at Nürburgring in the 24 hours as well.
47.5 is the time, which is quick as it's on the board there. Let's just see. Here he comes. This is him. I'm sure it is. Oh, next one.
Right, that's a Ford. Here he goes. Oh. There he goes. Yeah, 2.9. So he now goes up to 4th in class. Leaps an enormous way up the GTE Pro grid. So it's Porsche 1, 2, and 4 in GTE Pro. The Ferrari's in 3rd. 5th is the Ford, 6th is the Ford, 7th is the Ferrari, 8th and 9 the Corvette, 10th is the Ford, then another Ferrari in 11th, Aston Martin 12th at the moment.
The 28 TDS cars under investigation, no other information on that at the minute. That's second currently in LMP2. IDEX Sport have gone quickest in their G-Drive, just dropping down to third in the last few minutes in that classification.
On board with Olivier Pla in the Ford GT. The green flashes from the LED, from the buttresses on either side of that car, illuminating the bodywork, and it's quite surreal, isn't it, to see that much neon going around a racetrack.
Looks lovely. Reminds me of my supermarket car park days at midnight.
It was you, was it, that made them put the sleeping policeman in?
Sorry.
No, you're not.
I had a lot of fun, though.
And it made you a quick driver.
Yeah, relatively.
Relatively. So, yeah, the two Aston Martins, 13 and 17th at the moment, as we ride back on board with Ollie Pla. This is the LMP2 car. Harrison Newey at the wheel here. Harrison Newey, first time at Le Mans, over the line.
16th at the minute in LMP2 SMP racing car. Is it the 30?
35 car.
Yeah.
Did someone say that
We got a car
we know that he had
again.
We know that Harrison Newey had an issue during the test day a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, he made contact with Sorensen and also the Aston Martin.
Did he receive some kind of penalty?
He's got the sort of Damocles over him. He's got is it a minute stop-go penalty for the race, I believe, suspended. Likewise, so is Sorensen.
Right, I see.
But likewise, the Coles car in this session had a 5-minute stop-go penalty, so it missed the first 5 minutes, if I understood correctly. On board with the 2009 Formula One World Champion, Jenson Button, making his way out of the Porsche curves, and yeah, he did the test day here a couple of weeks ago. Now he's driving at night for the first time in a racing car. Full stop, I would hazard a guess at. Never drove at night in F3, never drove at night at F1 with lights on the front of his car. Drove at Singapore, drove into the night at Bahrain, etc. But he did one GT race last year, Super GT race in Japan last year, but that wasn't into the night. So yeah, this is a bit of a first for Jenson Button.
He was lost in traffic there, wasn't he, in the Porsche curves. He had to go around the outside of that Corvette, which would have hampered him a bit.
Seems like that's the only...
oh, I thought he was going to go up the back end of that Porsche.
Gravel on the outside of the track. Yeah. I think he's possibly the only car that didn't quite manage to make the lap early in the session, because currently in 8th position, Jenson.
On board with Jenson Button going down the Mulsanne Straight. Currently leading the Super GT Championship in Japan after 3 races from Okayama, from Fuji, and the last race at the beginning of May that was at Suzuka. He's been on the podium twice out of the 3 races, and as I say, leading the championship with his teammate Naoki Yamamoto.
That BMW, the 81 car, 8th in the pro category at the minute. Now that's a vast improvement position-wise. I'm not sure about time-wise until I get the results out, but they were languishing down 13th, 15th.
Yeah, certainly that looks like their highest position so far.
What did they do this before? Well, they're 3 seconds quicker. That car is actually 4 seconds quicker than what it was a couple of hours ago. Where do you find that kind of time? Do they have party modes like they do in Formula One?
Yeah, there is a... Oh, yeah, you can plug in your computer and you can do what you like.
Okay.
But, yeah, only they know. That's the thing. Only they know what they've got left.
Is that emotional driver being told off by slightly cooler engineer on pit wall?
That's Nick Katzberg on board there.
Yeah. What was he complaining about? Traffic?
Traffic, yep.
Yeah, but well, welcome to Le Mans.
Oh, now this was the car.
It's Nick's first Le Mans as well, isn't it?
So he's gone off at the top of the hill at the first chicane. Nicholas Boole.
How's he got there? Okay, we've
lost it through here.
And right round.
Strange one.
That is a strange one.
And then he's let himself roll into the... Well,
brake, yeah. And now it's beached.
Yeah.
Was that why Katzberg was not so happy on the radio?
Well, I was thinking when he was complaining about traffic, that's a good thing because it means he's quick and he's catching other GTE cars. But was that what it was?
I think it might have been that. Stand to be corrected, but might have been that.
We did see him come through there, though, and that car wasn't there at the time.
Okay.
So I think he just had everyday traffic that everyone else has got. But, you know, on the plus side, they're up the order. That BMW now is halfway up in 8th, which is their highest today. So now Aston Martin need to do something.
Yeah, one of our Aston Martins isn't even kind of registering on our timing screen, but the other one is in 13th. Johnny Adam aboard the 97 car.
Interestingly, Pilet as well, Patrick Pilet, who was fastest in that first session, is languishing down in 14th, so he hasn't managed to put a lap together either. Traffic issues.
Having to lift this out.
Strange. Surely he could just give it a wee push.
Well,
and get it going.
has he lost the engine? Is there something else?
Well, he's just he's just dropped the rear wheels into the kitty litter.
Kind of the drivers. These Toyota drivers, they're in and out like God knows what. Conway's out now, and that'll be who was that? Lopez getting into the 7.
Yeah, Lopez.
So the 8 Toyota is quickest. This car, we're on board with the 7-1. That's currently second quickest at the minute. Mike Conway has got out because we saw him just get out of that car. There's a slow zone at the minute. That is to recover the car at the first chicane. It's one of the Jackie Chan cars. Remember, the 33 car is facing the wrong way, or it's been lifted up now. And amazingly, Peter, you were saying that about, as we saw very early on in the session, the 91 Porsche, that went off in the same place into the gravel. It's stopped, it's behind the wall now, but still quickest by 1.5 seconds.
Yep. Clear track, and a driver who's fully up to speed straight away. And that was the difference. They put that lap in. Everyone else is stuck in traffic. We've heard Nick Katzberg complaining about it.
I mean, do you think anyone can get that now with it getting dark now, or is that gone for the night?
No, it does. It gets harder. But if you've got a driver who's a lot of experience around here, and suddenly he's got a clear lap, it's certainly possible to go quicker.
Yeah.
Because let's think about it this way: it's gradually getting cooler. Your tires are still getting up to temperature, but your engine is getting stronger, so you're able to go quicker on the straights. you might not quite take such a risk. We'll get a radio for the moment.
Yes, so a lot more down the car compared to this morning. Less instability and a bit more front end at the apex, so can carry the brakes. The only bit factor for me still, let's say, a little bit of understeer at high speed and a little bit of understeer at a very slow speed. But it is better, and we see that with the track temperature coming down, it gives a lot more real support.
So yeah, it's kind of what I was saying there. The tyres are still working well on the track. You're getting your tyres up to temperature, but the track is getting gradually a bit less green. He's getting more stability on the braking, because we've seen a lot of cars spinning on the brakes, haven't we? And he's just picking up a bit of understeer through the faster and the slower corners, which gradually will improve as more rubber goes down on track. So to me, that sounds as though the track is gradually getting there, but it's still not there yet. And you know, I'm sure they can do little changes to the car to help it, but you know, sometimes you work on one issue of the car and like the understeer, and just loosen the rear, and all of a sudden you're fighting the rear. So sometimes you just got to have the track come to you.
Classic shot there. We're green all the way around the circuit again. Now the slow zone has been lifted. On board the 38 Jackie Chan DC racing car.
Just look at the light in the trees. Look at the sensation of speed, the bugs, the flies rushing past you. And at this time of night, Peter, it just feels quicker, does it not?
It takes a few laps to get your head around it, yeah. But the best thing about that, you know, if you're dropped straight into the night, that's difficult. But if you've gone from doing some laps in the day and then you get into the night, it's a bit easier. So we've got the cars, in fact, both of the Ginettas, their drivers haven't driven much at all. So if they do get them out in this session, they're going straight out in the night, and that's your eyes are on stocks then that's tough.
Especially rushing into Indianapolis like this, changing down the gear, second gear into the left-hander. And even then, 190 kilometers an hour, that's like 115 miles an hour before Arnage, first gear, and now all the way back up the gearbox towards the Porsche curves. Another lap in there, and there's a slow car. Is that an Aston Martin?
Does look like an Aston
that looks like an Aston Martin.
It's dragging its back end.
Is it an AM or is it? No, it is. It's an AM car.
TF
it's a TF Sport car. So that is dragging its rear end because it looks like it's got a back left puncture, rear left puncture,
I think rear right.
No, that rear right's okay.
I think it's rear. I think it's rear left. That's something. No, it's at an angle. Is that wheel at a funny angle?
No,
you're right. Yeah, it's completely gone.
Rear left. It's on the rim.
Yeah, completely gone.
As Jenson Button catches up with Stefan Sarrazin. Jenson, having done his quick laps in the dusk, in the dark, recently engaged some 3 weeks ago. Even though he only told the world last night, his fiancée will be here in either today, tomorrow, next day or so. So
fancy going up there tomorrow, boys? Up onto that.
A wee cup of tea sitting up there?
Yeah, it'd be quite a good view, won't it?
You could be up there on the Wheel of Fortune, Julian. Or however much it costs.
This is stopped.
Yeah, now is that going to damage transmission? As it pulled a drive shaft
out of that, isn't there?
As it pulled a universal joint or something, you know? That's stranded.
Yeah, it just came to a halt. You see all the smoke that came out of it.
Look at the heat pouring out of that left-hand side. You know, and now it's blocked the pit lane. It's there, it's stuck. I mean, people can get round him, but so close and yet so far. They need to get that up in the air and get it out of the way as soon as they can.
12th currently in the standings.
If it's pulled a drive shaft out, it can't move on one-wheel drive.
Who's your money on? The mechanic on the left or the mechanic on the right?
To get there first, or?
Yeah.
I'm on bring a jack and get it on the dollies. It won't roll. You know, that's still a 1,200 kilo car. That it won't move because it's locked. You know, if that diff has cried enough, then it's locked. If a drive shaft has pulled out, as I said, it won't go on one-wheel drive. That's what a diff's for. They can push all they like. They might struggle there. The way it did come to a halt was quite abrupt.
It was abrupt.
Thank you. It was very about that. Just, you know, there's 100 jacks in pit lane.
Oh, we've got it
Just get it rolling.
Yeah, but it's still like tight, isn't it? It's
And you've got the drag from the puncture as well. Anyway.
And it's slightly uphill.
Is he just running with the clutch down, or has he actually got that into neutral? Well, that's the thing.
Oh, he's on the the uphill's further up, look, so they might be all right.
It's a long old push.
That is a long old push, because they are right at the other end.
They've got one wheel that's not moving at all, so real issues.
That doesn't bode well that it's wrong at the other end in the diff, so I hope that they're going to be okay to get that thing rolling in the next hour or so. Otherwise, they're going to have to wait till tomorrow. Currently 12th in class.
Of course, they need to circulate through the drivers, get all 3 drivers to be able to drive in the night time as well. So if they don't do it tonight, then they've got to do it tomorrow night, or else drivers can't start. Simple as that.
Is there a certain amount of laps they've got to do, or they just got to go out and do something?
I think it's 3.
3 in the night, yeah.
So if you're just joining us, this is the 90 TF Sport AM car parked in the pit lane. It's stopped. It's got a left rear puncture and some kind of transmission issue. Ah, here come the dollies. But how are they going to get it? How are they going to get it up? They were in a big battle in round 1 of the World Endurance Championship, and then they had a bit of a moment. I did make some notes about that race somewhere. They got abruptly shoved off, I think, going into the last lap when they were in a big battle for the lead in their category.
On board with Dirk Muller in the Ford GT, one of the American cars, right up behind the Fisichella car.
Is that Fizzy at the wheel?
It's not at the wheel, but it's his car.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a Fizzy driving there.
No, that's true.
What are you trying to say?
I don't think Fizzy would be doing what that car was doing. Wouldn't be holding him up quite that way. That was the arm driving.
Thomas Floor at the wheel of the Spirit of Race car. Meanwhile, as Muller comes through the last chicane and onto the home straight once more. Time 3:50's not gonna bother for the scorers too much, is it? Still quickest in GTE Pro is the blue and white, the Rothmans retro liveried Porsche 911 RSR. Jimmy Bruni, he did 1 flying lap, and on his second fly went off into the first chicane at the Dunlop Bridge. That car has not reappeared since. These are the TF Sport Aston guys making their long way down pit lane to try and retrieve their car that limped in with a rear left puncture and then suddenly came to a halt, some kind of transmission problem. It won't even roll up pit lane. So they've got to, and how do they get the airline
in? But they surely have to bring a bottle with them, yeah. Unless another team's going to lend them one.
I mean, you know, that, as I say, that's 1,200 kilo car. You won't get that underneath in a month of Sundays.
Yeah, you need like a portable bottle. And
it's lower anyway because it's got a puncture. So it just won't. You can't lift it up, you know. I tell you what, Julian, you know about this and I know about this. You need to be in the middle of Kielder when you've got 38 people to lift the car up, and then you can get it on the dollies.
Yeah. That's it. I gotta say,
I think they forgot that it's on its way, isn't it? I've just heard that it's on its way, so they obviously forgot that little. They've got the thing to plug into the car.
Yeah.
We've got only half of the equipment we need here, unfortunately.
We're getting there, gradually.
But yeah, but to be fair, an hour and 10 to go, an hour and 10 to go. If that is a transmission issue, I think they're out of the game anyway, aren't they, for tonight? And
certainly not looking very positive at the moment.
No,
yeah.
I mean, it stopped quite abruptly, lots of smoke, didn't it? So,
the other thing is we don't know what sort of damage was done on the drive back. Quite often.
Floor, rear diffuser. Yeah. Okay, the bottles are here now, so they'll plug that in. Like compressed air, and that's got automatic jacks underneath to lift the car up. And the master's just warning the next cars that are coming into the pits that there is something stranded in pit road. And as you can see there, they're called dollies, little wheels that help move the cars along without actually using, because of the differentials, it's very tight and the steering is rubbish, as Toby was explaining earlier. Enough to work a racing car steering wheel, but not enough to get you around 3-point turns and things.
Exactly. There's certainly not a taxi steering wheel, that's for sure.
So as Will Stevens goes on his way, Will, winner of the GTE AM category here 12 months ago, back at Le Mans, but back in an LMP2 car. Ross Gunn joins us. Ross drove at Le Mans last year with the Beech Dean Aston Martin, and he's been driving in the British Championship, a bit of ELMS. Ross, good evening.
Good evening.
All good with you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. How are you?
All good, yes. Good. We're at Le Mans. Of course it's good. It's always good at Le Mans, isn't it? That's the main thing. Not driving in Le Mans for the 24 hours, but you're driving in the Aston support race that will take place on Sunday morning?
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning. Sorry, yes. Race day Saturday, yes. Freudian slip. Obviously, you're in Aston. What can you tell us about what you're going to be pedalling around the 13.6 kilometres?
It's something very unique and very exciting. It will be announced tomorrow morning, I believe. But yeah, keep eyes open. It'll be very, very cool.
Something we don't yet know. Crikey, you're entered into a motor race and we don't know what you're in. And likewise, Peter, do we know what you're going to be driving?
I believe so. Well, I believe I'm racing against Ross.
So you two are competitors on Saturday morning.
Well, no, it's clear. I'm in the Vulcan. I'm in the Vulcan. So, yeah, I think we're going to have quite a close race tomorrow. Because I know what he's going to be.
Not too close, though.
But you can't tell us.
No, I can't.
Okay. But you've got 700, 800 horsepower or something, haven't you?
I think he might have the same. I don't know. Yeah. So no, it's going to be an interesting thing for both of us because for a start you get to drive round Le Mans, which is pretty special in itself, and on the other side of things, personally, I'm able to come here to the box and talk about it, and then get in the car and drive as well. So yeah, big presence from Aston this weekend.
So, what tricks did you learn around Le Mans last year?
Many. I mean, obviously it's a circuit that relies a lot of straight line speed, but also I think Peter will repeat this. You need to be brave on the brakes here. Porsche curves, there's a lot of time to gain as well and lose. And then you've got the tricky chicanes in the Ford chicane and the Dunlop chicane, and that's where a lot of time can be won and lost.
Always the case, always the case. You haven't given him too many tricks, have you, Peter?
I'm saying nothing. No, we're competitors. But what I will say this.
Told me your secrets.
I will say this though. I stipulated on my Vulcan I want new brakes in. They must be new brakes because we need a lot of stopping power down that back straight for the two chicanes and into Mulsanne corner. So
what does a Vulcan weigh?
It is about 1400. So it's a bit heavier than a GT3 car.
Okay.
But a bit more power. So 830 horsepower from the Vulcan, but just slightly heavier. And a lot of aero as well. We've got a lot, you know, I'm in the AMR Pro version, which has got the double rear wing and the louvers on the front. And so it's got a bit more downforce.
And you got Chris Harris as a co-driver, as a teammate.
I do, yeah. Yeah,
he's a fair peddler himself, of course.
Yeah, I think from what I see, he's been doing a lot of driving lately and racing in the Blancpain Championship. Sadly, not in an Aston, but you know, you do what you can do. So, but yeah, it'd be good to meet him and to talk through the car and you know, things like driver change and all that. But I hear that Ross might not actually be driving with anyone else, so he's not got a driver change to make. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So
there's a protest going in straight away. There is a protest going in straight away. No driver change.
Still having to do the mandatory pit stop for a certain time or something, but he'll have his eye in. He'll have his eye in.
But that's the... See, Ross is going to be the only car with a pro lineup. All the other cars, pro-am.
I think this is where the excuses start.
Yeah, I tripped over the racing driver book of excuses on the way into this commentary box.
Page 350.
Yes. Oh, that's only the half. Not even halfway at 350. Yeah. Now, is
another Porsche going round?
The black and yellow car, the Team Project One, is it? New to Le Mans this year, I think it may have been, but managing to get away with it. Ross, you've been part of the BRDC, you know, up and coming, the young stars. You know, what basis did that give you? What did you learn from that?
The BRDC is obviously this British Racing Drivers Club, and it's given me an incredible level of access to a number of fairly influential people in the sport, and you know, without some of those guys, entertaining sponsors is incredibly important these days, and that's where, you know, for the last 3 years I've been able to take sponsors to big events, and it's, you know, allowed me to form bigger and better relationships. So very beneficial scheme for sure.
But what about driving? What about on the racetrack? It's all very well, you know, a wave without the crash helmet on. But what have you learned from the Tim Harveys of this world and the other rising stars around you?
A lot of things, especially from Tim Harvey. You know, he's obviously competed at a very high level in motorsport, and from mainly a fitness side, but also a lot of off-track.
From Tim Harvey.
Yeah.
Did I hear that right? Fitness.
Yeah, we did some big programs at the start of 2016. But yeah, he's helped me a lot off track in terms of managing myself, how to prepare, and how to be taking on certain situations. On the on-track stuff, I've had the benefit of relying on people like Darren Turner and Johnny Adam, who I'm very close to, and they've helped me an awful lot over the years.
I mean, I jest about Tim, but no, the seriousness behind the scenes, and you know, I've worked with him myself in the commentary box. He's a friend, and yes, when it is serious with him.
Yeah.
And he has fun as well. Has he told you his Le Mans story? Because you know he drove at Le Mans.
Yes, yeah. You know, yeah.
He said we came in. I think he was in a Group C2 car. And he said we came in, it was a long stop, and it was a long stop. So I was rather comfy, and it was a bit warm. So we've all been there. You just sort of drift off, and you nod off, and oh dear, and he'd gone. And he was woken up by the fact that it got taken off the jacks, bang onto the floor, go, 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 go. And he had a DFZ or something behind him, which is only a 4-litre V8 console. And he said, you know, 35 seconds later, I'm doing 200 miles an hour down the Mulsanne when it was 3 miles long. He said that got your eyes out, Storks.
I can imagine. He's probably old school as well. Hopefully he won't hear that, but yeah, he's helped me an awful lot over the last few years for sure.
Oh yeah, and he's committed to that, to bringing up the new blood, the future of British motor racing, whether or not it's in single-seaters, you know, like Ollie Rowland, you know, look at what he's done. Whether or not it's Ricky Collard, you know, BMW Works driver, going through the same series. So it's quite something to have that star on your overalls, isn't it? So fair play, one doffs one's cap. So we look forward to seeing the battle between you two guys. Practice tomorrow.
10 o'clock, kick-off.
Yeah.
No breakfast for you, Dumbrack.
Game on. It is game on.
Cool.
Don't know what the weather's going to do either. You know, people are saying it's going to rain, and
I've heard it's going to be dry for all sessions.
Car pulling off here. No, the Ginetta. It comes out of pit lane and stops immediately. Did that just happen? That it came out of pit lane and it doesn't even get to the first chicane. Oh, it's done yards. Or has it done one lap? Yes, it's done one lap. Apologies. And the number 77, the Cairoli Porsche. Sorry, that's Christian Reed, Campbell and Andlauer Porsche has had a moment as well. But the Ginetta has had a day from hell.
It's Robertson in the car.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Not good at all. So we're halfway through this first qualifying session here for Le Mans 2018. That Ginetta is coming out of the pits. I was right first time.
I think
I was right first time.
Simpson had just done a lap, I think.
Yeah, but I was right first time. It came straight out and then just straight in.
Yeah, but it's been on track. It's completed a lap. He's pitted, got out of the car, changed driver, because as we said, when they're trying to rotate through the drivers.
Oh, not going well.
Laps 5. So yeah, so it's actually Simpson has got his 9 laps under his belt now.
Now it's rolling again. So complete Control-Alt-Delete reset, and hopefully it'll be on its way now. That's the main thing. So fingers crossed. So then, Toyota are quickest. The pair of them first and second. The SMP Racing number 17 car, Sarazan, Orogiev and Ishakan are in third overall, sorry. Then the 2 Rebellions, then the Koles car, then the Dragon Speed, and then the number 11 SMP Racing car. Aleshin at the wheel at the moment. Jenson Button, who was in that car a few moments ago, has just got out. Leading LMP2 is the IDEX Sport car from TDS Racing from the 26G drive. Leading GTE Pro are the 2 Porsches. The Rothmans blue and white car with the pink pig in second place, with the one of the UK Ford GTs in third, and in GTE AM it is the Dempsey Proton Porsches first and second, with the Gulf Racing Porsche in third. There you have a quick review. Julian will take us through the top of those classes. An hour to go in first qualifying.
Yeah, that's it. It's the 8 car out front. It's only a 1/10 of a second between the 8 Toyota and the 7 Toyota. So close at the front. It's a couple of seconds back then to the SMP 17 car. LMP2, as Toby was just saying, is IDEX Sport, TDS Racing and G-Drive Racing is our top 3. Dragon Speed are in 4th. Then we get to our Pro category, and amazingly, it's the 91 car that set its time, probably its first and only qualifying time, because it put itself in the gravel at the first chicane after that, and it's Porsche 1-2. But the Fords are starting to pick up pace. The 66 with Billy Johnson aboard, he is in third. The 68 car with Dirk Muller, that is fourth. The Fords are just starting to find a little bit of pace. Everyone is 1.5 seconds away from the Bruni car that's parked behind the wall at turn 1. But then it is pretty close after that. Lap 3 and 4 for car 4, the by Collis, that is, isn't it? Yep. Has had its laps cancelled due to excessive fuel consumption. Just getting that message on the screen. And just finishing off the classifications with an hour to go. The 88 Dempsey Proton Racing car, that is out front in the AM category, and followed by the... trying to move the light, and I've just broken it.
You've broken it.
Never mind. And the 77 car in second. It was shining on the board, and you couldn't see it, I don't think. Neither could I. I've put the light back, don't worry. Martin's back in the box. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, back in the pits is the fastest car in LMP2. This is a little bit of a surprise. IDEX Sport, there'll be a lot of fans that don't really know them. We've got a slow Porsche just finding himself as he's faced the wrong direction, the 94 car. And the onboard this again down into Mulsanne corner, and that's no, it's not actually. Yes, it is. That's the Mulsanne roundabout, isn't it? You have to go all the way around that.
Didn't he go the wrong way because he knew he was going too fast?
Yeah, he kind of straightened it instead of going off into the gravel where everybody went earlier on. Well, Ross Gunn with us in the pit lane. Ross, one of the youngest ever British GT champions, teenage champion with Jamie Chadwick a few years ago in British GT. What about the prospect of coming to Le Mans? What about the prospect of racing here? I spoke to a couple of drivers in the Road to Le Mans paddock who are here for the very first time, despite the fact they're sort of in their 30s and very experienced at other kind of racing.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Whoa, is that live? No, that's a replay.
The 67.
Well, so much for that question then. We'll get back to that in a moment.
Tony Kanaan on board that.
So 67 Ford, and was that not just out of the pits? No, so Tony Kanaan, that is, he's gone through sector 1 and 2, so that's on the return from Mulsanne corner. Sector 3 basically goes from Mulsanne corner to the finish line, which doesn't narrow it down much. Did it look like Indianapolis? I don't think it did. The faster of the Rebellions is in the pit lane. Neil Jani, Matthias Besch as well. So what about the prospect of coming here then? You know, it's a big name, it's a big challenge, but what's it actually like to be going out for the first time on this track?
Well, of course, for me, it was the ultimate test last year, and also the ultimate event. For any driver that's pretty serious about racing, they need to come here and do this race. It was the most incredible experience last year, and to do it at, you know, my 3rd year in GT racing was something I probably didn't imagine when I started GT racing. So I was very lucky to do it, and it ticked all boxes last year for me, for sure.
67 Tony Kanaan back in the pit lane, as we've seen so often already today. First day of action, cars that go off tend to come back still with all their bits on, because nobody's actually had a very major one yet, but skids off into the gravel traps. And what about the first lap out of the pits? I mean, you've done the simulator, you've done the rookie test, so you know where you're going, but when you come and actually go out onto the track, it was the second part of Indianapolis down to Arnage, so he looped it around there. What about that, going out, under braking into Arnage?
Yeah.
That's not a driver error.
No. I don't think I've ever seen that incident before.
Yeah, well, tail broke away there under braking, didn't it? So. So what, you know, you come out of the pit lane and you start to head up towards the Dunlop Bridge. I mean, that alone is, you know, an iconic sight in motor racing. How does that feel?
It's indescribable. There's not really any words to describe that feeling, but also to go down the Mulsanne as well. I still remember it, every second of it last year for the first time. And, you know, our car controller after the installation lap last year on the test said, "How was your first lap of Le Mans?" And that's how, you know, how much it means. And I think it's the fact that you're racing on roads. You've got big trees, you've got the fans, the barbecues, the campsites. It all just adds up, and that's what makes it so special. But also, it's so historic. It hasn't really changed much in the many years of being here.
And there's another incident at Indianapolis. That's the Dragon Speed number 10. No, that's pit lane entry, isn't it? That's pit lane entry.
That's just come out of the pits as well.
I know it is. It's up at the Dunlop curve. Yes, you're right.
But it's on its outlap.
Yeah.
There was a yellow flag at 26. It seems to have been a spinner at 26.
And that was down at Arnage, but the yellow flag out at Marshall's Post 3, that is for car number 10, and that is, as you said, an outlap for Renger van der Zande in the number 10 car. And then, you know, you come here, and this place is, it is public roads, and you are in the forest and all of that, but only for half of it, and half of it is full-on modern race circuit here in the Porsche curbs, around the S's and so on, until you get onto the Mulsanne. And then you go somewhere like the Nürburgring, and that's a whole different generation back in the past, isn't it? And that's similar, but so not similar, it's untrue.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't actually experienced in the Nordschleife yet, but I've heard many things about it, and I think there's so much variation there in terms of weather and different classes of car as well. Obviously, we've got the multi-class system here, but everything's a little bit closer.
Only 4 classes, only 4 classes. There's no 1300cc hatchbacks in this one, luckily. No. So, yeah, no, that's another level of epic. Now, what else are you up to this season?
So this year is my first year full-time with Aston Martin.
Yeah.
My main role is predominantly test and development work. Obviously, there's a new Vantage this year that's looking pretty good on circuit. So we'd like it to be a little bit further up the timesheets, but there's still plenty of time to play.
Well, you don't have to be in front of the last lap, as we saw last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Lead one, that's the only one.
Yeah. And then I'm also racing this weekend in the Aston Martin Festival in a car that will be announced tomorrow morning.
Yep.
Very unique, very exciting. And we're up against some pretty cool competition in the Vulcan and also the 95 GTE car of last year. And then there's a few other things in the pipeline for the year as well.
Yeah, yeah. And it's nice to be, you know, particularly as a young racing driver working your way up the ladder, nice to be recognised by a factory with the kind of racing heritage that Aston Martin has. I mean, you know, historically, but particularly relevant, you know, currently, to be part of that family. You know, the guys you're rubbing shoulders with, you know, you can't help but learn, can you?
Yeah, of course. And
slow zone.
Slow zone.
Julian having a slight heart attack. There is a slow zone on the front straight because the car's stationary up at the Dunlop chicane.
I looked at the time to see if it had actually gone quicker. I was thinking, oh, it's doing some laps. That's great. Fresh engine. And then I looked at it and it's going slowly. Oh, man.
Mandatory slowly as opposed to accidentally slowly this time.
Really?
So, okay, good. Right. Lots of changes going on. We've seen a first hurrah in the first hour, probably first half hour of shooting for pole. I think the last half hour as well. It's still dry, yes, cooler, it's a little denser, the engine works a little better, the cooling works a little better, and it's still rubbering up. I think in the final half an hour, which is coming up any minute, also, we will probably get a bit more of a hurrah for pole. And then, as you were sort of alluding to earlier, actually what looked like 2 or 3 days ago, a pretty horrendous forecast for tomorrow has sort of blown away into actually it could be about as nice as today, which means that not necessarily the times will be quicker, but there is a chance for the times to be quicker tomorrow. A little replay of coming in trailing smoke. Now, the replay is at half speed, but you can see everybody else is going quite a lot. So that's not a lock-up, that is something...
jamming, isn't it? But that car had just left the pit lane. Yeah,
well, there's Renger on the right in the bright yellow helmet, but that looks like a mechanical issue. Now, whether it's had a right brake lock on or whether that was oil smoke, if it's oil smoke, then they're in for a very long night.
Driver of Van der Zander's level would never make a mistake like that. So,
no, well, you're going uphill, and he was going too slow, actually, even for me to lock it up under braking there. You know, that was pedestrian road speed car, not racing car speed. So, yeah, that's a mechanical issue, definitely. So we'll wait to see what happens with that. 48 minutes remaining in the session. I don't think that car is likely to do an awful lot more running. But again, you know, thinking back to your first time, and that's Dragon Speed's first time here with a P1 car. They've been very successful in the European Le Mans series, but this is a whole different, you know, here you're in with the best of the world in terms of sports car racing, whether it's prototypes or GTs. So, yeah, every minute they spend in the pit lane instead of on the track is a minute they're not learning something. And you know, from your first experience, everything you can learn is worth its weight in gold in the race.
Absolutely. In this circuit, obviously it's one of the longest circuits in the world. It's the longest circuit on the World Endurance Championship calendar. So every lap you can gain is really important because of its length. And also, I think, you know, it's a circuit that you have to respect as well. Yeah. Especially the chicanes. It takes a lot of confidence to build up speed, and I can remember taking 3 quali sessions last year to really gain some incredible confidence. Yeah. And you know, a lot of the drivers, Pedro Lamy in particular, has always told me that Le Mans is a sort of circuit where experience counts for an awful lot.
Yeah, absolutely so. You know, these cars are being driven to within an inch of their life from the moment they arrive to the moment they leave. There are no relaxing moments there. There's no easy periods for the car. You have to drive it at 101%, and there's no way of getting away from that. So knowing just what you can get away with in terms of, you know, which curbs you can use, which curbs you shouldn't, how much you straddle them, and what that constant battering of going over the curbs does to suspension elements and all that stuff. I mean, Jan Lammers, we're looking at here in this yellow jumbo prototype, you know, he came here first as a racing driver when, if you went on the curbs, you pretty much knew you weren't going to finish the race.
Finish line to turn 3 exit active. Fernando, how is the light settings on this front end? Light settings? It's okay. They're okay, no problem. Okay, copy.
A man of many words.
So isn't it incredible?
Having practice on the same every year, the biggest limitation, always speed. Maybe only higher speed is okay, and you need this from that. But low and medium speed too much, always there.
Now, yeah, a little bit of smoke you saw off the back of the number 8 car as he came out of chicane. It's probably because he was running a little wider than he might otherwise have done, and that's as likely to be dust as anything else, and going over the curbs there as well. Actually, Alan and I were out on the circuit earlier on, and a lot of the P1 cars are looking pretty nervous and bouncy at the rear, and lots of the drivers complaining about mid-corner oversteer, and maybe that's a factor of the track still being dirty. Maybe it's a factor of the track not being rubbered in yet. Because, I mean, you know, they're going pretty quickly. Yesterday, or this earlier on today, 3:17. You know, pole last year, 3:14. So they can go and do 14s, and maybe we'll see that a little later on. But interesting what he said about the lights. Alex, okay. Now, he doesn't know what to expect. Yes, they've tested, but they haven't tested here at night. And that's a very different thing, because there's no ambient here. There's no light. As soon as you go onto the straight, that's it. You're into the, you know, real darkness. And I'm not sure that asking a guy who's in his first nighttime session how the lights are is actually a very empirical test. You know, if they send you out for the first time with the lights and they're shocking, you don't know. How would you know? You just go, I can see, sort of, because you don't know what to expect, do you?
Yeah, but a driver of Fernando Alonso's level, I'm sure he can figure it out.
They don't have that in Formula One.
Yeah, true.
You know,
and here it looks like there's nothing.
Yeah. Well, there are no lights out there in the forest, you know.
But that doesn't look right, to be honest.
You go by a house or two.
Them down. I think he's turned them down. I don't know why, whether that's his teammate in front. Yeah.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah, there you go. Well, what they need is the intelligent LEDs that, where the car leaves itself on full beam, and then if there's something in the spotlight, it sort of diffuses the beam around them. But I'm not sure.
Look at all the dirt coming off the back of it. You can see it in the lights.
That's one of the big comments from this afternoon session from the drivers, was how dusty and dirty the circuit was.
And that's the soil here, isn't it? You know, it's not clay and flint, it's very sandy. And you know, inside your caravan, Jules, same as mine, where you've been walking around outside where it's rained, sand everywhere. And so that's very much the same on the track as well. Christina Nielsen there, the only female racer in the field. Down at Aston Martin garage. A few guests listening in on the headset. Now, see, that's a great thing. If you ever get the chance to do that, to sit in during a session and just listen to the radio traffic, so much more goes on, doesn't it, than we ever get the chance to broadcast, because otherwise it'd be Aston Martin television, which is, you know, something that Aston Martin need to look at rather than, rather than the ACO.
I'll let them know about that idea.
Well, yeah. You know,
I mean, I've had a headset on all day, and I'm connected to all 3 cars, and they're on constantly.
Yeah.
Always relaying information, driver to engineer, sometimes engineer to management.
Yeah.
It's constant.
And you're learning all sorts of different swear words.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
How's your Danish coming along?
Yeah. My Danish swear word book is starting to pile up for sure.
But which is odd, obviously, because the first thing any foreign racing driver learns is how to swear in English. Yeah. So particularly good. Excellent. Well, listen, thank you very much for coming in. Hopefully we'll get a chance. We'll certainly see you in the Aston Martin race on Saturday morning. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see you as well during the weekend. Ross Gunn from Aston Martin Racing.
Thank you very much, guys.
And the very best of luck up against all the other cars. I know what he'll be driving on Saturday, and that is very entertaining as well. So we'll catch up with him. We'll send him to our colleagues in the other British-speaking booths and get a chance to catch up with all of that. So meanwhile, everybody, the key focus in qualifying now, Jules, is to get all your drivers with their nighttime laps. You can't do it in the day. You have to do your 3 nighttime laps after the blue light goes on the clock on the start-finish line. So it's officially the 10 to 12 session. Whether it's dark or not, doesn't matter. And you think, OK, well, it's only 3 laps. How hard can it be? Well, it takes, you know, 3.5, 4 minutes for some cars to get around. So that's 12 minutes. Times 3, that's 36 minutes. So you're getting on towards an hour to get your 3 drivers to have their 3 laps each. Charlie Eastwood back out, yeah.
Back out. So that's obviously no big dramas for that car, which was good. So yeah, so we still have the same leaderboards in each of our categories, so nothing has changed there. As you were just saying there to Ross, maybe the last 15 or 20 minutes, we might see something. They're running through their cycles, and a man who's just slotted into the hot seat will be able to tell us a bit more about those cycles.
He's busy texting all the people he should have phoned earlier on that we reminded him about. Alan McNish.
Hello. Yes, I've managed to catch up with my social secretary diary system, so back onto thing as we are. Yeah, I think that it'll maybe be a little bit before the last 20 minutes. I would think the last half hour actually is when you start, because by then it thins out. Some people have done all their, well, there's quite a few actually would do their one qualifying run, and that would be all they would be scheduled to do. And so from a traffic perspective, then it reduces a little bit. But the other thing is that it gives you a little bit of time as well, just in case there is a wee bit of traffic, because there's not qualifying tyres any longer. Certainly for LMP1 and P2, you get the best out of it on the first lap, but you can have a second and third go. And remember, at 3.5 minutes a lap, and you know, you tend to rack up the time quite quickly.
Well, there's another man from Formula One background with a lot of racing experience, but very little of it here in endurance racing at Le Mans. Paul di Resta.
He's done one race, did the Daytona 24 Hours earlier on in the year with the same team, with United Autosports. Enjoyed it tremendously, but as I did point out to Paul, you know, Le Mans is a very different place to Daytona, just from the simple point of view. Daytona's in an oval, and also it's very, very well illuminated to the point where you can run a dark visor. And you don't really have the issue of lights and the light and dark. Here you're coming up into the Dunlop chicane, and it's very, very light because all the grandstands and the pits and everything else. But as soon as you sort of duck out of Tetra Rouge, then it's suddenly dark as you're blasting through the countryside in the second sector of the lap, until you basically get back round towards Arnage, when there's big sort of grandstand on your left-hand side that illuminates things again.
Yeah, floodlights down there, and at Indianapolis, as you say, they've made a much bigger viewing position there. But down the Mulsanne Straight, you're in a sort of basically tree-lined tunnel. There's well, no light at all.
It's the lights of your car, and that's the little tunnel of light, which when you see on the onboards, like now, you know, that it certainly does look a little bit more illuminated than it is. Not sure what that signifies, but...
Well, that's the Villorba Corsa team. One of our LMP2 category squads. Where are they in the rankings? They're doing pretty well, actually. Roberto Lecourt in the car at the moment, and they are 7th fastest. And for a rookie team at Le Mans, that's pretty good going.
Another rookie in there, Felipe Nasser as well from Brazil. And Nasser's been running in the Brazilian Stock Car Championship this year alongside quite a few drivers. The Brazilian Stock Car Championship, if you aren't aware of it, is a very strong championship down there. It's like a kind of NASCAR-ish type of deal, but all the guys enjoy it.
Some bright young hopeful called Rubens Barrichello is one of their front runners.
Yeah, he is.
I hear he might do things.
Yeah, I think he's got a future in the sport. I'm sure we'll be looking back in 20 years' time and we'll have heard of the name of Rubens Barrichello.
Yeah.
Just on screen here, the 68 Ford of Bourdais, currently in 4th. We just had some results streaming through. The two Aston Martins GT Pro, 16th and 17th.
Yep.
They will be wanting much more than that. I mean, what's going on there? I mean, they won last year.
Yeah, they did. They won with a car, though, that was very well sorted, a bit like the Corvette now. Yeah. It's a car that they've been running, you know, for a long period of time. They understand it inside out. And there's Porsche. Porsches are going off left, right, and centre today.
But that's because they're so fast. Look at them.
Yeah, but they might be fast. But if you're fast over one lap, and admittedly, you know, Jimmy Bruni is fantastic lap to do that. But then off at Dunlop, and we see another one here. Pile went off earlier on. So this is the BMW where I think it says BMW, but it looked like...
It says the onboard is the 92, so this is the
it's a lap time of the BMW.
Kevin Estre.
That's what happened with the Aston.
He's going off again,
No, that's the replay. That was the first off.
But that was exactly what happened to the Aston Martin and also the Ford into Mulsanne.
Yeah.
Very, very slippery, apparently, into Mulsanne at the moment.
But when the pink car spun, it actually didn't try and make the corner. He went straight on and then looped it round the roundabout and came back. There's Jean-Eric Vergne, man who is going to head to New York in a few weeks' time with a very handy lead in the FIA Formula E Championship. And former British F3 champion might end up being the 4th Formula E champion.
Yeah, he's definitely got one hand on that trophy, but another driver in this pit lane is the one that's probably most likely to take it off him, and that's Sam Bird, who's driving in the Ferrari in GTE Pro. Sam, I think, 23 points behind with a total of 58 available with the double-header weekend. And where is the car?
Yeah, there's the 51 machine.
That's a sister car, isn't it? To
51 and
Sam's one.
71. Yeah, that's last year's champions, isn't it? Alessandro Pierguidi and James Collado sharing with Daniel Serra, who's defected from Aston Martin.
Yeah, when you say champions, you mean world champions?
Yes.
Not Le Mans champions.
Well, let's get down to the pit lane and hear from Louise Beckett. Lou, what do you know?
Well, I'm with Nick Manassian, and he's with the 48. Setting some good times, but the car's been in quite a while, having work done to it. What was going on?
Sorry?
The car's been in for a while, having work done. What was going on? Do you know, the funny thing is, Nick has just said to me he's going deaf.
Yeah, he's right. Too many years in the paddock, you know. Now we put the car in because we're doing a few changes. You know, we're working on the race setup now. And we're just changing a few things at the back just to improve the car for the race. I'm not going to tell you more, you know. I'm going to keep the secrets.
Of course you're not, but you've obviously raced it many a time, so I'm sure you can give them lots of information, tips along the way with the team.
Yeah, we've been working very hard over the winter for trying to get the good engineering crew in the car, in the team, and helping the driver to feel comfortable. And you know, you need to enjoy yourself as well. So we're trying to give them everything we have for them to enjoy driving. And once you enjoy, you're normally pretty good.
Thank you.
Nick Manassian 10 years ago was the guy that we battled out to the overall victory at this race. He was driving for Peugeot at the time, and thankfully from our point of view we came out just a smidgen ahead of them to take the victory, but he was absolutely on fire that day.
He was hired by Dragon Speed last year to run their second car in the European Le Mans Series, and has become quite a handy team manager. You know, having a driver as a team manager never works well, does it, Al? Oh, hang on a minute. It's got, oops, that's the G-Drive car. That was the car that he was managing last year, in fact, for Dragon Speed. They were running the G-Drive car in ELMS. Lots of gravel there already.
Yeah, Pizzitola's in the car there, and he just came around the right-hander as it dips into the braking area for Dunlop, and got a little bit wide onto the outside curb, and then just tried to sort of sort it out. It wasn't by design, that's for sure. It's not your average line.
No, there's a few drivers going out wide. You kind of get out too wide, and it's very hard to get back off the curb to the right, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the road keeps turning right, and the belly of the car's on the curb, so it keeps dragging you the other way. But at the same time, it's actually quite bumpy into that area. So if your car is vertically quite stiff, then especially the front axle starts to jump a little bit, and it's easy then to lock a brake. So then you compound your problem that little bit more.
We were talking to Ross Gunn a little earlier, just looking here at the Aston Martin driven by Maxime Martin, another man who's got a drive in the British GT Championship this season. Well, there's Jenson Button on screen, laughing away. Louise Beckett, you just had a chat to him. What about his impressions of nighttime Le Mans?
Yeah, he was surprised, actually, surprised at visibility and more so the amount of cars on track. He said it was like being on the motorway. He'd never seen so many cars.
Yeah, well, when there are definitely a few more here than there are in your average Formula One race.
What, 3 times more?
Yes, exactly so. Exactly so. And of course, 3 times the number of drivers times 3, so there's 9 times more people out there.
I think the other thing about it is that it's the changing conditions. Now it's when you also experience what it's like in the dark, to drive in the dark on your own.
Oh.
Well, that's Rebellion's #1 car, and that's Neil Yanni in it. And 30 minutes to go, so it's probably about time, because if you also look down, there's a lot of people in the pits at this moment in time in all of the categories. So therefore, traffic numbers should be quite reasonable, and getting a bit of information about what is coming up. Problem is that you catch cars so quickly, so the GTEs are doing a 350 at the moment, give or take, and if he's going to be doing a 320, then that's 30 seconds a lap. So when you start the lap, the GTE car would not even be in sight, and then suddenly you catch them. Where do you catch them? Ford or Porsche or somewhere right at the end of the lap, where it just kind of does all of your 3 and a bit minutes work.
Yeah. Well, the SMP car of Matevos Isakian back in the pit lane, but on his in-lap, he set the fastest first sector of the session. So the number 17 SMP racing car has a bit more to come. Number 1 Rebellion, clearly the only reason for telling Neil Jani about traffic ahead of him is that he's looking for a clear lap. And we're now in the witching hour, aren't we, where we're expecting to see more times being thrown up.
Yeah. At the same time, you might not get it. And one of the reasons I think there's a little bit of focus is that the weather forecast historically, and I say historically earlier on today, was that it was big chances of rain tomorrow, but that seems to be reducing a little bit. However, my experience of being here quite a few times tells me that you don't want to take that risk, and if you can, you get one in the bank tonight, because you don't have the same sort of restrictions on your tyres and also on the way the driver lineups are as you do when it comes to the World Endurance Championship.
Driver change going on at WeatherTech. Ben Keating, Jeroen Bleekemolen, joined by Luca Stoltz for this race. Luca also did the Daytona 24 with that car, the WeatherTech team. WeatherTech, in fact, sponsoring the IMSA series. So, and now the title sponsor. As Alan said, probably a quarter of the cars are in the pits at the moment. Only 2 AM cars, Ben Keating in that car and Liam Griffin in the JMW Motorsport Ferrari, which is now 8th fastest in class, having been 12th of 13 cars in the free practice session.
That was Alex Brundle going around the outside of the 52 Ferrari and Porsche. Dear me.
Yeah, there's a lot of closing speed. You know, that's where the prototypes really have it in spades over the GT cars because of the downforce they generate. GT cars get up to a good top speed compared to a P2 car, but oh boy, when you watch the cars, the LMP2 and LMP1 cars, particularly going through the Porsche curves, the way that they can just change from lock to lock, or well, corner to corner, is quite remarkable. And even trackside, a man who's driven these things, but not in the last couple of years, it just takes a little moment to recalibrate even Alan McNish's eye to go, ooh, right, crikey, actually, these really are fast.
Yeah, it's a funny thing from outside the car. They're very, very quick. When you're inside the car, because you are moving at that speed and your brain is processing things at that speed, then they seem quick, but they're not that quick. But when you're standing beside the track, I've got to be honest, I think you must have been mental to get into those things.
But then if you got out of a car with your brain at that accelerated rate of handling data and then watch them, you go, yeah, OK, that's fine. That's not a problem at all. As you say, it's how fast you assimilate the data, and mere mortals, we don't assimilate things quite so quickly. Fastest lap for LMP2 from G-Drive at number 15. So that's a purple lap, is that right? Oh no, that's up against the fastest lap. Beg your pardon, not reading the screen correctly. So number 40 G-Drive car. Number 15 G-Drive car in 40th place. Number 40 G-Drive car in 15th place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this car on the picture is 13th at the minute in GTE Pro.
Well, again,
Fassler aboard it.
You know, the deal with Aston Martin is they got a brand new car, but they are worried about the last lap on Sunday, not what happens now. Because, as I said earlier on to Ross Gunn, you only have to lead 1 lap at Le Mans, and that's the last lap. If you don't lead the rest, it doesn't actually matter as long as you lead the last lap. It's better to lead more, but you only need to lead 1, same as in, you know, in any other race.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know, Sebastian Vettel, his first
really
ever World
wide,
Championship, he never led the World Championship for a single day until at the end of the final race.
Yanni bumping right across the exit of that corner.
Yeah. Well, this is a quick section out from Mulsanne down towards Indianapolis. Blue lights flashing. Not for him. There is nothing quicker out there coming unless he's got a Toyota right up his exhaust. Into the light pool at Indianapolis. Carries the speed down into the left-hander, braking all the way through. Short squirt up 2 gears and then hard on the brakes down to the slow corner at Arnage, which causes as much trouble for drivers as any other. Then building up speed, the same public roads that have been used since the 1920s here at Le Mans. Then they were gravel. If you look back at the film, the Le Mans film, they're about half as wide as they are here, with a little ditch and stone markers down the side for the distances into the new Porsche curves. Well, new compared to 1970s at any rate. And on the right-hand side, the big new open gravel trap where there was, or not gravel trap, runoff area where there was once a wall.
He's got to make up 1.8 seconds if he wants to go as the top non-hybrid. Oh, yeah. Got off it just there.
Cut away from that lap. Stefan Sarrazin, by the way, this is how things are getting serious. Sarrazin is back in the number 17 SMP racing car that is third fastest.
Didn't go any better, didn't Yanni?
No. Well, he didn't have a green sector anywhere. Here's the number 11 SMP car, Mikhail Alishin, one of the 2 Russian drivers, shares with Vitaly Petrov. It's such a long lap, Alan, but you know, even the Mulsanne is busy now because of the chicanes and because of the extra speed that cars are carrying with every single year.
Yeah, when I raced here 20 years ago, as in 1998, I think the pole time was 3 minutes 36 on a qualifying tyre. A race tyre time would be 3 minutes 40, and that was for the outright victory. But we were still doing 350 kilometres per hour in the straight, which means that we were significantly slower in the corners. Now you're looking at 3:17 in lap time, but with actually a slower top speed.
Yeah.
And so therefore all that time is made up in the corners, and it's all through Porsche, where it used to be downshifts and then floating the car through. Now it's basically a lift only to get the front of the car in. Otherwise, you just have a bit too much understeer, and you load the tyre a little bit too much, and you get too much energy into it, hence a little bit more understeer from there. And so it's a completely different world, and it's because of aerodynamics, just pure aero load.
Alonso's just got out there, Alan. What do you think's going through his brain now? All that speed in the dark and everything.
Well, it's not the first time he's done it. You know, he's completed endurance tests, which I think you'd find rather boring, to be honest with you.
Says a man who's completed quite a few in his time.
Yeah, and got rather bored of them, but they're part of the hard work that you've got to do when you're thundering around the circuit at 3, 4 in the morning on your own with only a stopwatch to keep you company. And the odd time of an engineer saying to you, well, I'll be right, okay, full course yellow, and then you trundle around for 25 minutes at 80 kilometres per hour simulating a blooming full course yellow. Not that that drives you nuts or is stuck in my brain or anything. But anyway, moving back to Fernando Alonso, I think he'll be thinking, crikey, this is fun, this is good, this is what it's about. It's the enjoyment of it, something new, it's a challenge, it's a very different challenge to what he's been used to. And yes, he's done the Daytona 24 hours early in the year, but as I said, the same with Paul di Resta. It's a different kettle of fish when you get to here. And I think it'll be a smile on his face, especially, you know, after being in a category for a long period of time, being Formula One. You do need a little bit of a refresher, your energies, and something new.
It just reminds you why he got into this in the first place when you were a kid, doesn't it? And, you know, Le Mans does that every year.
What's going on there? Sorry to interrupt you, because that was backed up into the Ford, which meant that the car was still in the pit lane and they're working on it like that. Normally, you'd put it in the dollies and take it into the garage.
Yeah, but in free practice, the 38 Jackie Chan car was in for nearly 2 hours doing exactly the same work. I think that was the all-Indonesian car there. I think that was the 37. But they were seen to be doing that. They were working in the pit lane for nearly 2 hours.
Yeah. Well, you can, but you can only use 2 mechanics on the car at any one time, so it's pretty much self-defeating. Plus, you're in everybody's way.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is it's not exactly the safest place to be working.
It's damn right, yeah. The pit garages are not a car length wide, so you're overhanging your pit box half the time, especially if you're trying to give yourself some room. There's Tracy Crone on the right-hand side. And
it's his wife with her matching green nails.
Yeah. I think Tracy's got matching green nails as well, but he's just too shy to show.
He's madly passionate about racing in this race.
Though.
Just absolutely loves it.
In comes the 32 United Autosports car, 32 blue. That's how we remember that, isn't it? It rhymes. Not like 22, which doesn't rhyme with blue.
32 blue, yeah, that was it. And there was one on the BMWs. Can't remember which way around Toby had that. BMW now 8th and 10th in the GT Pro category, so they'd be happier with that than they were for the free practice earlier on. But
do you reckon?
Well, yeah.
Sorry to sound a bit of a dampener.
Well, yeah,
I was just looking at the 3 seconds gap to the Porsche.
3 seconds faster now than they were before.
Yeah.
So they were 6 seconds off the pace.
Less glum rather than happier,
okay,
should we say?
Yeah, okay, less glum,
yeah.
Still amazingly, the 91 Porsche, which only did 2 laps, is still quickest in that category.
Well, you only need to do 1 to go quickest, so, you know, he over-egged it a little there, didn't he? A real proper qualifying hot shoe, fastest lap, pole, bin it.
Yeah.
That's it. We don't have to do any more. Of course, it does mean that his 2 teammates haven't qualified, so they've got to do that in tomorrow's night session.
Yeah. Oh, and there's Aston off,
that's
the 98.
98, yeah.
And Paul Dallalana's in that car at the moment, 7th fastest, and that's at Dunlop, coming up into Dunlop.
Last year's AM-class champions.
I love the marks on the other one. It's kind of like some kind of...
That's where it's been. Those are the marks from the Manitou, where it's crawled back out with the car on tow. Or not on tow, but lifted off the ground.
Just look at the rear wheels. You can see they're basically brown, and that's all the gravel trap, the gravel that's on there. And we'll see it again. It just spins as he turns in, basically.
Yeah. And the problem there is he's carried speed and started to turn, and as you go over the brow, mind you, that would have got him big marks in a drift competition.
Yeah, but it's also got big flat spots in the flat spot competition. And that's a set of tyres gone.
Yep, absolutely so.
But just coming back to that, there's a few cars now being done for track limits and their fastest times being deleted, mainly in the GT AM. And part of the reason for that is because these are the cars with the least downforce, so therefore you have to try and float the car through the corner a little bit more, which means it's more difficult in a way to keep it within the white lines and the confines of the circuit. But also because of that, it means that if you do happen to get a little bit outside, you gain so much lap time. And if you can get away with it for the 1 lap, that's okay. But now with all the cameras and the focus on it, then, like I say, there's 2 drivers just had their times taken away in the last few minutes.
Yeah.
One being Cheever, and the other one, I think it was Segal. It's both of them bouncing around in the mid parts. Andy Priaulx going very slowly in the Ford, out to the second chicane.
Things not going well for Baicoles. They've been penalised as well for exceeding their instantaneous fuel flow limit. That means they lost laps 3 and 4 of the session.
You've got a maximum amount of fuel flow that you can have per lap, and normally you've got a system that basically would cut the flow when you reach your maximum, so you didn't do that, and they haven't obviously been able to achieve that, so therefore they've consumed too much fuel over the 1 lap, and that's meant that they've got pinged for that. It's happened before in the past, but it's a little bit less regular now because most teams are actually completely on top of that with the fuel flow meters and the understanding of how to do it.
Did we name and shame the miscreant who took the checkered flag twice after the first session?
No, we just said the car. We didn't know who was in it at the time.
Tony Vielander.
Yeah, I know.
500 sovs.
Yeah, but I tell you, it's a cheap lap if you ask me.
Peter Dumbreck thought he would be maybe a time penalty stuck somewhere or whatever, but...
Yeah, 500 sovs. Toyota have been reprimanded for refueling the number 7 car while it was up on the skates, because you have to refuel it with the car's wheels on the ground. So all sorts of little rules that are not new and have been in place for years, and you just, guys, stop making silly errors. And that's what all the teams are saying to themselves. Get your heads around it, come on, let's focus, let's get on with this. Because silly errors like that, it's one thing to do it in free practice or qualifying. If you start doing stuff like that in the race and get a drive-through, let's assume that both Toyotas are going to finish. If your teammate gets you a drive-through for that, he might just cost you victory at Le Mans.
Just so you know, it's not your teammate that does the refueling, though.
No. but, you know, if
yeah,
it's
I know
your
what you
car,
mean. Yeah.
you know, so many years when you were at Audi, it's basically the first one to have a failure in the car of some kind is pretty much not going to win the race.
No. It's when you're with a team that's capable of winning, and that's definitely the situation for both of these Toyotas. This is their best ever chance, in my opinion, of taking the crown of Le Mans. And so, you know, it's going to be the least problems will win the race as opposed to necessarily the fastest.
And the fastest man round here 12 months ago is just getting into the 7 car. Nose change as well on that.
That'll just be purely checking the lights of the nose, because and also the aero, because and fresh nose will give you a slightly different aero number and a different aero balance, so the front might have a little bit better, which means the car's a bit too pitchy and a bit too sharp on the nose of the car through Porsche, or alternatively, and probably worse so, is it starts to then bounce down the straight because it's actually sealing itself onto the ground, and then it porpoises down the straight.
Is it an attack to try and be top of the leaderboard, because they're second at the minute, 1/10 away?
15 minutes, we're in that window. You know,
if they put a set of tyres on it.
Yeah.
If a set of tyres, it's possible, but I would have normally have seen one run first before doing it.
Yeah, well, maybe Conway was doing the quick one, or Nakajima might do a couple of laps on this, and he'll still have time for a couple of laps.
Nakajima's on a long run here with a 3:25. That sort of long run pace.
Sorry, Kobayashi.
Yeah.
I think probably looking at the forecasts we've looked at, which are not as sophisticated.
Full fuel, soft low temp tire. Full fuel is only 35 kilos of fuel, so it's not you know, as heavy as it used to be in the past. It's significantly restricted, but the soft low temp tire is their fastest tire. However, it is also at the same time the tire for these conditions. Not really. Let me check the temperature actually before I start making comments like that.
Well, the other thing is, with 15 minutes left, he's only going to get 4 flying laps.
It's 15 degrees track temperature, so it is in the region of that. And it's also a good thing to do, to try to understand how that tyre, because you want to go to that tyre as soon as you physically can in the race. So you've got the performance through the night with it, but you need to see where the crossover is between the temperature of the tyre as opposed to necessarily whether it's a soft, medium, hard.
Aston Martin traffic jam in the pits. All 3 Astons are in. The Pro cars sandwiching the AM car in the middle. The 98 with that very different livery. And looking from above, look how different the new cars look. The bright yellow, bile yellow coloured cars. Very, very different from the sort of rounded, smooth lines of last year's car. This year's car very much sharper edged and very, very different look to it. On board with the 36 Senior Tech Alpine car. This is one of our expected front runners. Sandre Negrão, the Brazilian driver.
This is at the end of the lap coming into the Ford chicane.
Yeah.
That's him just disappeared through the right-hand side of the screen there. Now picking up Matthias Besch in the Rebellion, currently up there in 5th place. Back to Negrão, coming up into Dunlop. He's got a car up ahead of him. No, it's going to be in his eyesight. That's the start of this lap, compromised straight away.
That's one of the GTE Pro Astons just fresh out of the pits. We saw them both on the stand a couple of moments ago, so that's his exit from the pit lane. Probably just where the Senior Tech car didn't want to catch him.
The rear of that car looks a bit unstable as he turned into the S's. He was turning in a little bit early. Usually that's a sign that you need to turn in more shallow and more gently because of rear instability. It's a tricky corner because you are loaded quite heavily as you're braking and turning at the same time.
There's the Senior Tech team. The car is an Oreca chassis but badged as an Alpine.
Alpine being a brand that was around in the 60s and early 70s, part of the Renault group.
Indeed. Well, it was started in Dieppe, in fact, in northern France, as a tuning company like Abarth. Carlo Abarth started tuning Fiat, and Alpine started tuning small engine Renaults. They brought their own cars here, long, low streamliners in the 70s, which were hugely successful. And then, yes, it was sort of consumed by the Renault brand, who have now spun it back out as a sporting manufacturer on its own.
Yeah, you can buy, they've got basically a 2018 version of that car.
Yeah. Well, look at the speed differential between the Rebellion coming out of the pits on your right. You know, these are the things in the middle of the race at 3 in the morning when you're end of a triple or in middle of a quadruple stint. Those are the things that cause accidents.
Probably dropped him a 10th looking at his sectors.
Yeah. You've got to be fully on it. Lots and lots of cars having their laps deleted. Car number 8, laps 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12 and 13 deleted due to exceeding fuel consumption per lap.
Okay, well, its fastest lap was on lap 2, so it's okay there. It doesn't lose more of that.
So that's Stewart's decision number 15. I've only got up to 11 on the official timing thing, so they're obviously not updating quite as quickly. Exceeding fuel consumption per lap. Well, let's talk about that with the hybrids, like with everybody else, but particularly it started with the hybrids. You had a certain energy usage per lap.
Yes.
And that was a combination of hydrocarbons and electrons.
Yeah, very correct. And so therefore your maximum petrol energy, if you want to be technical about it, is 124.9 megajoules per lap of fuel energy, but at the same time you're allowed to release 300 kilowatts of electrical energy, and that's about 400 horsepower of that as well. So you've got a petrol flow and you've got a petrol energy, and this is all the formula to try to balance, and it's basically the energy release is the thing that they're trying to balance.
Stewart's decision number 15 refers to car 8, laps numbers 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12 and 13 deleted for exceeding the amount of fuel allowed. Laps numbers 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12 and 13 deleted due to exceeding the amount of fuel allowed. This is decision 15 affecting car number 8.
On our screen it said decision number 14, but we'll let that go. And that was pretty much most of Mike Conway's last stint. Now, Alan, we're used to understanding that in the hybrids, the electronics do an awful lot of controlling when you can go for that hybrid energy, and they won't allow you to have it if it means you're going to exceed your energy level. But that sounds like they've got a fairly fundamental fuel flow, because it's not talking about the hybrid boost, it's talking about
total energy use.
What the petrol energy.
It's total energy use.
Okay, so it could still be hybrid.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's managed by a fuel flow meter, which is a mandated part that all of the LMP1 cars have. And so therefore that mandated part may have a problem, not sure. However, the information should be going back. At the same time, you know, that's quite a lot of errors, shall we say.
Well, it's clearly a malfunction that has sort of gone all the way through that.
You can override. You can override these things. But
again, talking to Mike Conway about it and Ann Davidson about it, is you can... The electronics in the Toyota are pre-programmed to allow you to have the power. In fact, they're pre-programmed to release the power at certain points on the circuit. So, for instance, out of Arnage, it's going to dump that hybrid power, give you that four-wheel drive, give you that extra horsepower from the slowest corner on the track. You can override it so you don't shunt into the back of somebody who's going slowly.
Or alternatively, you can save it if there's traffic up ahead of you and use it at a later date.
So you can stop it automatically going in, or you can demand it for longer to try and complete a pass on somebody. But in the end, before you end the lap, the computer will force you to balance up that energy so you've not overused.
Fundamentally, you've got X that you're allowed to use per lap, and the computer, in theory, which was the Collis car, maybe isn't at that sophisticated level, but the computer basically will shut down, if you like, right at the end of the lap. A fuel, you get it's called a fuel cut. You get a fuel cut at the end of the lap to bring it back into line. You know, with the electric, once you've done your energy, you've done your energy, and that's kind of it. And that's usually here, coming out of the last corners where you'll blast your last bit, because then it takes you up all the way up into Dunlop, which is where the Ferrari is right now.
Just seeing the rebellion there, the 3-car, Laurent and Board, fresh set of tyres on there. You wonder whether they just want to try and pop themselves into third and be the top non-Toyota.
Why wouldn't you? You know, and again, even if it's not, even if they're doing what Toyota are doing, which is putting on the nighttime tyre and the nighttime nose, and nighttime noses are a thing. You know, if it's for a quali lap, it'll be a proper Thomas Enger job, won't it? It'll be, you know, 5 minutes to go. It'll be one warm-up lap and then death or glory.
Right, it's going to be basically once past the pits and then he's got to do it. He's got no other option with 5 minutes to go.
Looking here at former, well, started off his life as a Mercedes factory driver before moving camps several times in his career, Marcel Fassler. Look at the Corvette as it goes away, and look at that little bright glow underneath. Now that's a ride height sensor, isn't it? They beam a light down and it bounces back off the road, so they measure exactly the ride height constantly all the way through the lap. That's all part of balancing the car as effectively as they can.
Yeah.
A lot of GTE cars here, and two Astons followed by 2 Porsches.
Well, most of the P2, well, half the P2 cars are still in the pits or just coming back out. Jean-Eric Vergne, the fastest car, is still the IDEC Sport car. Memo Rojas there. Mathieu Vazivière, second fastest for TDS Racing, but Jean-Eric Vergne, third fastest in the 26G drive car, and Roberto Gonzalez in Dragon Speed's 31 car. That's the one in the red and green Mexican colours. They've both just come out of the pits with 5 minutes left on the clock. Somebody's flinging gravel off everywhere.
All the rest in the United Autosport cars, it just came up going slow.
Yeah, is that him? Has he been
P2
through
car.
the gravel? Yeah, it could be. There's another view of the historic look Porsche garage.
Sorry to interrupt you there, because 22, where they said the car was going slow, that's actually Mulsanne corner.
Yeah.
And so it suggests maybe a possible gravel moment.
Yep.
Just looking at the 5 Ginetta, it's done 19 laps and it's getting quick. It's best lap on 18, so at least they're getting some mileage now.
Yeah. I say that we were out at the Porsche cars there at the end of the first practice, and the car looked very, very good through there. Very stable.
Does look good. Does look good.
That and the Toyota were visually the best cars through it. And that's only one corner in a big long circuit.
Yeah.
So you can be quick through there, but slow down the straight ski. You've got so much downforce and drag on. But just through this point, this next point here, the momentum it was able to take through that left and then the long right and then the switch to the left again was very, very impressive.
And it didn't have that sort of slightly twitchy rear end that the Dalaras seem to have with the BR Engineering cars. It looked very nicely planted. You know, it's going 15 seconds a lap slower, so as you say...
What's keeping up with this Toyota?
It's a rebellion.
It's either a rebellion or the other Toyota. They were nose to tail a little while ago.
It's a rebellion.
Yeah.
Still look at the dirt coming off of the back of everything.
That's the exhaust. That's exhaust gases coming out of the back of it.
Not just dirt, okay.
No. And the other thing is that you're seeing it now because of the illumination of the car behind. The other place you will see it is when it dips down the hill out of the Dunlop chicane. So it drops down to the left with the lights that are coming back up from it. You usually see it there as well.
Kaz Nakajima in the number 8 Toyota, the fastest car so far. 2 minutes remaining. No personal bests from any cars out there at the moment. Stefan Sarazan still in the garage in the 3rd fastest car, which is the number 17 SMP racing car, which on its in-lap set the fastest first sector for anybody, 1 whole second quicker than either of the Toyotas have managed. Who else is... Well, nobody else really on it. Oh, hang on. Personal best in the 2nd sector for the Seniatec Alpine car of Andre Negrão, but he's come into the pit lane.
This is Paul Di Resta coming back in the United Autosports LMP2 car. It was a car we, I think, saw going slowly, dropping some stones, coming out of Mulsanne down towards Indianapolis.
Currently 6th in P2, so not doing so bad, are they, really?
No, well, the Ligier, that's a Ligier car, which is probably the unfancied runner in LMP2. But they've got a new downforce package for this one. Yep. So
Paul-Luc Chatin on the right of the shot there. Young man who came into endurance racing 2 or 3 seasons ago with a big bang. Very quick young driver, and being very successful in the European Le Mans Series. Car number 5, things aren't getting any better anytime soon for Ginetta. Just been reported to the stewards for speeding in the pit lane. Only managed 18 laps in 6 hours of track time and going too fast in the pits.
This is the leader in P2 at the minute, the IDEC Sport 48 car.
Got to say, I'm hugely impressed with that. IDEC Sport haven't, you know, swept all before them in the European Le Mans Series. So far, that is a really impressive run from those guys.
it is very strong, actually. But they were pretty quick in the last couple of races.
Yep.
I watched them, you know, not so much Paul Ricard the first one, but Monza, they were pretty good there.
Yeah.
But TDS Racing at second with Mathieu Xavier is in the car at the moment, are very strong.
Yeah. Well, checker flag is out. The end of the first 2 hours of qualifying. 4 more hours of qualifying remain in 2 sessions tomorrow. That's Thursday evening, 7 till 9, and then 10 to 12. And everybody's gone out today to set a time because the forecast originally was that the weather was not going to be great. But on the interim poll in LMP2, IDEC Sport from TDS from G-Drive, one of those names I would have put in the hat. In the GTE AM class, the Gulf Racing 86 car, third fastest, Dempsey Proton's 77 Porsche, second fastest, and Dempsey Proton's 88 Porsche, top of the pile. So that's 3 Porsches in GTE AM. GTE Pro, third fastest, is the 66 Chip Ganassi Team UK Ford. Second quickest is the 92, which is the Pink Pig, and 91, which is the Rothmans coloured car. That is top of the pile for the Porsche GT team. Those are the 2 regular season entries. So there's your fastest car in GTE AM. Dempsey Proton's 88 car with Matteo Cairoli taking the checkered flag for them. In LMP2, third fastest G-Drive's number 26 car. Jev is already out of the car, or he's not, he's heading back into pits, having taken the checkered flag. Mathieu Vazivier in the pit lane for TDS, second fastest. And the IDEC Sport team, Memo Rojas back in that car. That is our interim pole sitter. And in the blue ribboned class, LMP1, third fastest, the number 17 SMP racing car driven by Stefan Sarazan at the end of the session. And the top 2 are both Toyota hybrids, the number 7 car in second, but it is the number 8 car that will have the overnight pole position. Times may improve tomorrow, but there's no guarantee. However, the weather forecast, I think, will very likely give us 2 more shots at setting fastest times. All of which, Al, in the end, gets you no points, no glory, but it does, well, it does get you a couple of points, but gets you headlines, and that's all part of the game as well.
Yeah, I've always preferred to be on pole position for Le Mans than being second or third, even although it doesn't mean very much at the end of the 24 hours, because it comes down to a lot more than that. But in general, it's a very pro thing for, especially in the LMP1, when they are actually, you know, you're out there on Friday night on the parade, you're the car, you're the driver picking up the huge trophy to say that you are the fastest that year around about this legendary track.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, we now return this legendary track, or at least a fairly decent slice of it, to public road. And Alan and a few bunch of people will be trotting around early in the morning. Not running tomorrow, though, are you?
No, cycling the track tomorrow morning. I've got a sore foot, so I'm not able to run for another 2 weeks.
Cycling on an electric bicycle.
It's called a Ducati, actually.
All right, so you are going to be back very early for the chocolate croissant, aren't you? Pain au chocolat.
Yeah, 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Make sure, have a little look at the circuit.
66 Ford, you're seeing just at the bottom of your shot there. That's the 3rd fastest car behind the 2 Porsches. Very easy to spot. I hope the Clearwater Ferrari hasn't just taken the flag for the 2nd time.
That seems very late. We're 3 minutes, nearly 4 minutes after the session there.
Yeah, but don't forget, it's a 4-minute lap. Yeah, so if he crossed the line, you know, even 20 or 30 seconds before the checkered flag came out, then it will take him that long to come back.
He would have been on pole if he had done it any quicker.
Yeah. Would he?
Yeah.
Was that a quick lap?
Well, if he'd done a 3:59 is the quickest lap. 3:55, sorry, I didn't see Cairoli's time
so,
there.
that would have been, lightning fast. There's Kaz Nakajima in his Toyota, the number 8 car. He and his teammates at the moment, the pole sitters. And there is the number 23 LMP2 car. Let's take a look then at the results. So far, Toyota 1-2 ahead of the best of the non-hybrids. So SMP ahead of the 2 Rebellions, Dragon Speed, the number 11 SMP, and the Bicolors number 4 car. In LMP2, IDEX Sport on top of the pile ahead of TDS Racing with the number 26 G-Drive entry in 3rd spot ahead of Senior Tech Alpine, the better of the United cars and the best of the 4 Jackie Chan DC Racing cars, which is the all-Malaysian number 37 car. We then go down, we find the 2nd of our Ginettas in 23rd place. That's the number 6 car, which Ollie Turvey took the flag with. In fact, he didn't. He was parked up quite a long time. Oh, no, he did take the checkered flag with that car. That's now completed 17 laps. In the GTE Pro Class, Porsche, Ford, Ferrari, Porsche, Ford, BMW. And the 2nd Ferrari, the 71 car, Samper Davide Rigon, just about last in the class. In the AM class, Dempsey Proton 1st and 2nd, Gulf Racing 3rd. It's a Porsche 1, 2, 3. And the significance there is that in the AM category, you have to use cars that are a season old. And so they've now got the brand new mid-engined Porsche, which was a big step forward. Scott Dixon takes his helmet and balaclava off. Joey Hand in the background there. And Scott Dixon, how many Kiwis in the field? Him, Earl Bamber, only 2? Scott Dixon, the winner of the Texas IndyCar race on Sunday.
Why is Nakajima still sat in his car?
He's on the radio to his engineer, just debriefing.
Can't get the belts undone. They've jammed. He's in there for the night. Louise says he's also going to get mobbed. He's going to get doorstepped by Louise Beckett as well. But there are a few photographers. I tell you what, there are a few photographers. If it had been, let's say, a newer driver to the team who had done the last stint, there'd be about 40 with their cameras stuck in the door there. I think the renewed level of interest in Fernando Alonso at Toyota would definitely have given them a big boost to the number of photographers there. So Nakajima, you can see his head moving around, chatting away. Not quite so much of the hand gestures that you'd expect to see from certain racing drivers.
That's a lovely shot there, isn't it? Directly above.
Yeah. Well, Louise Beckett waiting to have a chat. We've got another 2 or 3 minutes, so I think Louise might have to be a bit forceful, just elbow her way in, because there's a few people waiting for a chat. Kaz is out of the car. Racing son of a racing father.
Not just a racing father, but a legend in Japan of a father.
No question. Charming young, well, I was going to say young man, not quite such a young man anymore, but did a lot of his formative racing here in Europe as well. Go on, Louise, get in there, son. He's disappearing into the garage and out the back, so we're not going to get a word there, I'm afraid. That's the TDS garage.
2nd and 3rd in category.
Yeah.
TDS, because they also run the G-Drive car, which Jean-Eric Verne finished up the session there in 3rd place.
Exactly so.
2nd place was my ex-teammate, Loic Duval.
Corvette and Aston Martin sort of slumped down towards the tail end of the field in the Pro Class. But the 98 Aston Martin in the AM class, 7th place. Again, it's all about race pace here. Like Silverstone, this is a track that kind of works to the Aston Martin's front engine strength, and they've always got good race pace. Again, it's a car they know well.
Yeah, but I think I would have preferred a little bit more qualifying pace from them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely agreed.
I'd like to see a bit of consistency in there, not inconsistent fast as opposed to consistent not so fast.
Consistent Pete. Louise Beckett holding on for our hero, but we've got a minute and counting before we're off air. So the fun fair in full effect. There's concerts and all sorts of other entertainments for the fans around the trackside, and that's once you've done with the barbecue, the beer, and the gin and tonics, obviously. So that brings us pretty much to an end of the first day of action for this 86th running of the Le Mans 24 Hours, the Grand Prix d'Endurance, the world's most famous and difficult endurance motor race. Thanks to everybody for your company this afternoon and this evening. We'll be back tomorrow with two 2-hour sessions starting at 6:45 Central European time. Until then, from Alec Nish, Julian Porter, me, Martin Haven, good night.